Welcome back, movie fans, to another episode of The Movie Date with Rob and Matt, a podcast for people who like movies but don't want to be too smug about it. I am Rob.
And I'm still Matt.
And we are here with my dear friend. Edit. I have to get rid of both of those deers. We're here with a friend named Luke Shoemaker.
What's up, y'all?
What's up, man?
Good to have you with us, Luke.
Hey,
Luke's been a friend of mine for several years now. We met at Guitar Center, and I'm producing his album for him. He runs his own podcast called
The Road to Soundcheck.
Yeah, where he interviews musicians. Hasn't interviewed me yet. I feel like I'm a pretty big part of his life, but that's no big deal. Don't
This
worry
is
about
going to be a crossover, right?
it. Don't
So this is the
start with me,
crossover
Matt.
beginning of a series of crossovers.
Don't start with me.
Here we go.
Crossover.
The podcast universe.
What if Harry Potter crossed over with Driving Miss Daisy?
But no,
watch
imagine
that
if
movie
the Lego movie crossed over
with
with
Shawshank Redemption.
Now, the Lego movie has to cross over with
Here's the thing,
Small
though.
Soldiers,
Here's the thing.
which has to cross over with Puppet Master, which has to cross over with
That's the great thing about the Lego movies, though. They can literally do whatever they want.
yeah.
Lego, like with
'Cause-
Legos, you can have any character.
Go play those Lego
Because it's the right
whatever
tone where
games.
you can, like in the Lego Batman movie, they have a smorgasbord of WB because WB owned, like, has the Lego rights or whatever. So there's a billion, like, Lego, like, the Eye of Sauron is in it, like Voldemort is in it, like all sorts of like villains are in that movie.
Well, they've got the video games you can play where it's like Lego Megaverse or whatever.
or Lego
and-
Lord of the Rings, Lego Star Wars, Lego Harry
Back
Potter.
to the Future, Lego Mission Impossible, Lego James Bond. Like,
Yeah.
whatever property gets Lego. Lego secretly is like marveling. Like, they're like, we'll soon own everything. Also,
But the Lego versions of them, at least.
See, I'd love a
the
Lego
second
Star
day
Wars
of
movie.
the Lego Marvel Civil
They
War.
they kind of did one. It was like a Lego Star Wars Christmas special thing,
They
yeah,
did do
I
that
did watch
Christmas
that.
special.
Yeah. It was, yeah.
which is better than the actual Christmas special.
No
Weird.
kidding. Are you sure? Because that's kind of so bad. It's great.
See, I prefer.
I mean, I'm talking about
That
like,
Lego Star Wars does not have B. Arthur in
I'm
it.
talking about not in like a meta way. We're like, it's terrible, therefore I love it. Like,
Right.
but like it's genuinely fun, and like there's lots of fun with Rey and Luke Skywalker and going back to the old movies. It's fun. It's good
Well, they got
stuff.
some good comedy writers, so they can make it work.
See, I prefer that one to The Last Jedi.
Are you playing a video game in the middle of our podcast, Luke? Must I cater to your ADHD so much?
I'm sorry.
I'm gonna put it in a locker.
I will take it, and you will get it back at the other class. Let's talk movie news, because we got a good bit of movie news. Let's start with the one that pertains to what we're actually talking about today. Gina Carano, axed from The Mandalorian.
Man, she's out. She's out. She died on her way back to her home planet.
Dang.
She was caught in the destruction of Alderaan, the shockwave.
Oh, that's right. She can't go back to her own planet.
Oh,
Well,
sad.
This. So before we get into the politics of it and everything, which I mean, like, you can debate that up and down till the end of time, but it is, if you're going to do something like this, now is the time to do it, because as we're going to get to, as far as a Mandalorian season 3 could be very, very different from what we've been used to. So these characters may be doing other stuff that we're not going to see for some time. So it's like,
Yeah.
we'll see what happens there.
With where Mando season 2 leaves off, it is
Right.
kind of a weird open book where you could kind of,
Because this is going to be
You
the
can do
man.
anything at that point.
This is going to be the Mando episode. So I mean, obviously, if you're reading this, you know that it's
What
the
you mean?
Mando-
This whole episode
episode's
isn't going to be us breaking down the Snyder Cut trailer? I'll make
welcome
sure
to
that
welcome to
happens.
Snyder Cut trailer, minute by minute.
Yeah. When I heard that she was she wasn't. Here's the thing: she wasn't even really canceled or fired or whatever. First of all, canceling's not a thing. I don't believe that canceling's a thing.
Because she's got a career.
Unless we're talking about like
she's
Don
gonna
Imus was kind of canceled or whatever.
Right.
And I don't think he necessarily should have been or whatever. But most of the time, when people are bitching about cancel culture, it's not really a thing. So, but they chose not to rehire her for the next season, which they didn't have plans to do anyway.
Which they didn't have plans to do anyway, so she didn't re-up
whatever.
her. And that's the thing, like with a lot of varying entertainment and media news outlets and things, you can type in and put in any kind of hyperbolic material you want in order to hype up them likes or hype up them anger comments and everything, because it's all about exposure. They had, the company was just like, look, we're fine with you. We're fine with your beliefs. Just know that you're treading thin ice. And then she's like, no, I'm going to double down on it. And they're like, well, we're going to have to let you go then, because we've got policies here, that kind of make sense. And it's like, you can't go around, because, there's plenty of, conservative actors and everything who still have long-standing careers and are doing
Vince
fine.
Vaughn, Bruce Willis.
Vince Vaughn, Bruce Willis.
Vince Vaughn's he's not really conservative. He just he kind of owns guns and he's slightly libertarian. But Bruce Willis definitely is. Bruce Willis is definitely
yes, but what's his name? They're actually bringing back Frasier.
Yeah, Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer's a long-time Republican.
But all these Republicans,
he's getting his show. Like, he's not.
They're bringing back Frasier.
That's what I saw. They're bringing back
so
Frasier. Yeah, so Frasier Crane's
without
coming
the dad,
back.
the dad's gone.
Yeah, well,
Makes me sad. Me and Sarah watched binged that whole show. It was really
Niles.
Niles.
David Hyde Pierce is still around, so you can do that. Like
he was in the Hellboy movies. He plays Abraham Sapien in the first.
Yes, he
one.
was Abe Sapien.
Oh, you're
in
right.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah. But all those like conservative actors, they're all basically the same. They're like, oh, I believe in like low taxes, but I don't care if gay people get married. They're like they're Hollywood conservatives.
Right.
There isn't a Ben Shapiro type conservative.
I mean,
in Hollywood.
you occasionally. I mean,
and
well,
if there are,
I mean,
they make propaganda.
right. I mean, you've got the one side of things, and you've got like even someone like Jon Voight is still in the Harry Potter movies. He's still in Fantastic Beasts. Like
that's
he's
right,
not.
he is in those,
He's
aren't
not canceled. He's not an A-lister, but he'll occasionally do like a Christian themed sort of like Pure Flix movie, and then he'll be in Fantastic Beasts. That's not canceled.
Yeah.
That's getting a paycheck.
I'd say the interesting thing that I've noticed ever since the whole Gina firing is there's a petition, and I finally found the petition this morning. I told you about this the other day, but there's a petition of people trying to get Don Cheadle to take over the role as Cara Dune.
And I said he should show up and use the same line from Iron Man 2. I'm here. It's weird. Let's roll with it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole reasoning.
Gina Carano didn't get a chance to say next time, baby.
That's the whole reasoning I found behind it was because they loved so
think
much
Terrence
when Don
Howard-
Cheadle came in.
You think Terrence Howard watches like Avengers Infinity War and just like, fuck?
Yes, of course he does.
I heard
in the same way that I'm sure plenty of other people are looking at roles they almost had, just like
Edward Norton could have been like, the Hulk in these movies or whatever.
whatever Edward Norton's doing right now. Right.
I wonder
But-
where he's at.
I'm sure he's doing like big indie stuff or whatever that's like very critically acclaimed that 5 people
He had some
see.
pretty solid. He had some pretty solid tweets recently. So people are like, we haven't forgot you, Eddie.
Yeah. I feel like of all these new Disney Plus series being announced, the one that feels the most overdue in a way is War Machine. He's always been second fiddle in those movies. I think he deserves a cool War Machine on a Mission 8 series, miniseries, or whatever. I'd watch that.
Well, it'd be cool if
I'm
he
actually-
popped up in something like of course they announced the guy and the guy, Bucky and
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
That's if you got like the other guy movies, I'd be fine with an other guy movies, and have like Don Cheadle be the one who's like, Tony Stark's gone, like I'm kind of in charge now as the now Iron Man or an Iron Man.
Yeah, because what is it that Tony Stark does that War Machine couldn't also do?
Yeah.
His suit just has more guns.
Yeah.
Like it's the same
It's
suit.
the same thing. I mean, I guess
I'm assuming Iron Man makes them for him.
I mean,
Because they're always different.
I mean, I guess Tony was like, you're kind of just gonna get this one, but I got all of these ones that I.
But
can
no, because
use. you
his
ain't got a
suit-
Hulkbuster,
his
buddy.
suit upgrades.
That's right,
So from
yeah.
Age of Ultron, Civil War to Infinity War to Endgame, they're all a little different. So he gets upgrades too. So I feel like at this point he's got a pretty powerful suit. I don't know if he has like the liquid thing where like Tony's just materializes around him now.
That was dope.
Whatever. I think his is like you still got to clank into it. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
he's still got to get the manual
arm
on there and
or whatever.
everything. It doesn't suitcase over him like.
But
in
I would be
Iron Man
more
2.
excited about a War Machine series than I probably would about like a Loki or a Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Well, I think they confirmed it. I think the War Machine series is happening.
Really?
Yeah, I think
if that's
so.
true, yeah, look that up. Live Comptrol.
Let's see.
Well,
But-
if we did get something like that, and obviously like Don Cheadle in a lead is great because he's an actor who can hold that down.
Yeah, I watched him in the Adam Sandler movie Rain
Over Me?
Me by Mike,
where he's playing Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh yeah,
That's
right.
the only thing about that movie I remember is
I watched it again. It's real good. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's called Armor Wars, and so it basically
that's based on something. Armor
Yeah.
Wars is a Marvel.
Is he hunting
arc.
down people using like ripped off versions of Iron Man, trying to stop them from?
I think so. I think it's like him
Sounds
trying
dope.
to save like Tony's tech and all that. And it's
There-
gonna be
Oh, here.
it's gonna be a Disney Plus thing.
Oh, cool. Fucking A.
I did not know about that, and that sounds all kinds of my junk right there. It's a bunch of rogue mechs running around, or just like all right, I'm going to be thinking about this.
He needs one. Yeah, he needs one of these series. But we're not talking about Don Cheadle. We're talking about Gina Carano. So Gina Carano was fired for basically saying being conservative Hollywood is like being a Jew during Nazi Germany.
And that's so
both factually untrue and stupid to say.
Right. And I mean, I think a lot of it was just built up over time. Like, we're not trying to just, you're clearly kind of pulling a certain, movement in your speech about everything, and it's not good for business.
Yeah.
And also, she was saying things that I personally think are abhorrent, like that was that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
And also, like, the fact that very quickly afterwards she was like, I'm leaning into it, and I've got partnership with this new company related to not OAN, but Newsmax.
I think it's Ben Shapiro's company.
It's Newsmax then, right?
No, Ben Shapiro's is the Daily Wire.
Daily Wire. It's Daily Wire.
Yeah, because she's gonna do some terrible propaganda film that gets like a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes and everyone hates.
Right.
But then Ben Shapiro, like this new movie that he has coming out, is gonna ask all his fans to run over and bump up the audience score. So the audience score is like a 99, the critic score is like a 13.
But that makes me think that, like, she must have known that she'd have like an out. Like, that she was like, even if I do this, I'm not going to lose out much, and I have an audience elsewhere. And so if I push too far,
extremely short-sighted.
Oh yeah, it's not smart.
You're in Star Wars.
Yeah,
you are losing out. It's one of the biggest franchises.
Your character could have a prequel movie where I love the character of Cara Dune because I love the idea of, like, the shock trooper. I love all these little stories about, like, when Moff Gideon's just like, yeah, you were one of those shock troopers. I have the same gun back here that wiped your buddies out as you were paratrooping into a battle scene.
I forgot about that.
And I was like, that sounds really neat, and I'd love to see what all these war battles, all these battles that took place during the Galactic Civil War were happening, because it wasn't just our heroes. There had to have been people holding the line, and all that. And
contrary to popular belief, wars are not won by one man with a laser sword.
No.
As The Last Jedi tried to tell us, and then everyone went, no!
Like y'all said, though, I mean, they are starting to build on the Mando kind of mythos. I mean, Finnick, she's now showing up in the Bad Batch, I believe, the new animated series coming to Disney Plus.
Yes, I saw I saw the design of that too. So they're bringing in.
I feel like I think the thing that really pissed me off is, like, Gina Carano, like a lot of people who get called out, like, do this really sad backpedal. Because the big thing that she did is, like, someone pointed out Pedro Pascal has in his Twitter bio his gender pronouns. He/him.
Yeah, he's got he, him on that.
It's something that no one gets mad at you for not having them. It's just a courtesy that people do, which takes the guesswork of having to be like, what can I call you? Do I just do, what do you like to be? It gets rid of that conversation.
And as somebody who puts it on there, you're also saying, I validate that this is something that people are living and want to express about themselves, and that's
it's social grace ping pong. You're hitting it back, and then they hit it back to you.
Yeah, what I don't see, because I've seen memes of this, is people coming out of the woodwork and like and like shaming you for not doing it.
I've never seen that.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, what she did is she went on her Twitter handle and she put beep boop bop or whatever, and she said she was just being silly like a robot. I don't think you were doing that.
No, you put that slash in the middle there. I know exactly what you're doing. That's dog whistle shit right there. You might as well put attack helicopter. Like,
and here's the thing: I would have respected her more if she was like, "Yeah, I think it's dumb." I would rather her have doubled down on the.
You'd rather have her just go ahead and do the J.K. Rowling giant epic that she wrote about it, because it's like, I can lean in as much as I want. I'll still be the richest person in England, and I won't lose anything out.
Yeah. And it's probably true.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They'll go around and
I feel like J.K. Rowling has a better argument to be made that, like, but she still is very supportive of progressive blah blah blahs. Like, whereas Gina Carano, I feel like I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, but at least there's an argument to be made there. But Gina Carano, I feel like what happened is you got caught, you tried to say you did something else, and then you bitched out. Like, that's what it was. And, like, is it beep boop? Like, people are saying, like, oh, she got fired because she said beep boop bop. Like, no. She got fired because she went on a weird social war.
There are receipts. Yeah. She was very okay with this for a very long time, and everyone was just kind of like,
I mean, not to mention tweeting out election conspiracies and COVID conspiracies and stuff. Like, at some point, Disney's just going to be like, I don't really care. Chris Pratt is a notable Hollywood conservative,
Yeah.
or at least conservative.
He's a Christian, at least. Like he goes to a church and everything. He's not been very open about his politics, but he
goes to a church that's shitty to gay people, essentially.
Right. But he's mostly kind of just like your typical, like he's just like, I love America, I love Jesus, and I love my family. And it's like, all right, Chris,
and
whatever.
I've never imagined Chris Pratt like slurring a gay person or something like that. And when he was called out, he said something like Hollywood isn't a great place to see like working class white stories. He said something like that a long time ago. And everyone descended on him and be like, what do you mean? Like every Mark Wahlberg movie ever made or whatever? And he was like, you know what? This was really dumb and I shouldn't have said it and I'm sorry. Like he's got the bona fides to at least say like when he's wrong, he's like, you're right, I was being a dickhead, I'm sorry.
Right.
Gina Carano would never do that.
No.
So as far as I'm concerned, like, get her out. I don't care.
Yeah.
I never liked the character that much to be like this outraged. If this happened to Pedro Pascal, I'd be like, no, not my Pedro.
Yeah, that would be a bummer.
Not my Prince Oberyn and Maxwell Lord and fucking the Mando and every other cool thing. He's gonna be in The Last of Us. Like, it'd be heartbreaking if he was an asshole, but he's not. Looks like him. He's a real mensch, which is nice.
That's the good thing with Mando. Like even with them having to do what they did and all that, there's still so much room for them to explore, especially how they left the ending of.
Yeah,
of
they got
season
so
2.
many characters that's left
Exactly.
over. Like, just bring Timothy Olyphant back and be
Yes.
like, and just be
If
like,
he doesn't come back,
she
he's
didn't
only been in one
She didn't
episode."
care for the sheriff life, and I'm always down for it. And it's like, all right, Sheriff Tim.
If anything, I will get to it in spoilers, I guess, because we're gonna be talking about Mando.
we're gonna talk
anyway.
about episodes.
Let's talk about the next biggest thing, which is some Spider-Man. The new Spider-Man title was announced.
Yes.
It's gonna be called I'm Not at Home.
It's a No
Can't Go
Way Home.
No Way
No
Home.
Way Home.
I'm not at home. Leave a message.
I'm not Spider-Man. I'm not at home.
Jake Gyllenhaal outed my identity.
There were I think I mentioned this to you or mentioned somebody. I was talking to I think a
Edit Luke
coworker.
playing his video game out of this whole conversation.
I was talking to one of my coworkers about this, how they ran this whole like the 3 title thing, like Spider-Man Home Slice,
And then there was
Spider-Man,
Phone Home.
Spider-Man Phone Home, and I was like, it ended fast. They were like, that was a gimmick they ran for about 24 hours. We're like, no, the movie's this. Now apparently, like they've released some screen caps or like something, and it's like a bunch of hexagons and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys know anything more about that? I've not really followed up.
Not
on
really,
it.
but I'm sure Luke does.
So Marvel's kind of my thing, and so the
A
hexagon,
sin that can be forgiven. No, I'm kidding.
no, so
I
like,
love it too,
yeah.
internet. I can hear them all. Rob's always so mean to all the. No, I'm not. I like them all.
I will not
I like
stand for-
2/3. I like 2/3 of them.
So, like, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't been keeping up with the MCU as of late, because we're about to spoil a whole bunch of different movies and all that. But where the hexagon is coming from is the Disney Plus series WandaVision. So, what's going on in WandaVision?
Have you started watching?
I've watched all of it.
Okay, great.
I've
Okay,
watched all
perfect.
of it.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I would say tread a little lightly here because it's so new.
Yeah.
But, like, we can hint at, like, something that's going on in it.
Yeah.
I think most people kind of get an idea of what's going on.
There's
in
a
WandaVision.
hexagon in the WandaVision.
Yeah,
Oh,
basically,
something
yeah.
like that,
So,
yeah.
like, the city that it takes place in, the city itself's in the shape of a hexagon. And if you go back and you watch the post-credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home, when Nick Fury, you see him on the ship with the scrolls in deep space, there's a control board in the back part of the shot, and you see a hexagon there too. And so, without revealing too much about WandaVision, I think everyone kind of knows that WandaVision is the lead into several other Marvel projects. And coming later on down the road from Marvel is Doctor Strange 2 and the Multiverse of Madness. And so I think we're starting to see all the dominoes fall into place for a multiverse, because if you remember, too, at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home, we see J.K. Simmons come back as J. Jonah Jameson. And
Yeah, but I think that's just a glorified cameo. He's like, you guys always
you
loved
see,
me.
I
I
think
thought it-
back, baby.
I thought about that too, but now it's like you can justify it now as a way to say, I mean, we're
look
going
what's
in
coming.
on it.
Yeah.
Because I remember when this is coming to fruition, I'm almost like completely like, we're not done with WandaVision, but where it's leading to makes me think that, oh yeah, there are certain elements in here that are just like, we are jumping through properties.
yeah.
yeah.
When we talked about last time, we talked about the DCU going into the multiverse itself and having its crisis on Infinite Earth situation.
Which they'll never get to because Walter Hamada's too afraid.
But
everything has to be a standalone. But
you remember,
stuff can cross over for one movie. Like, here's what I think: Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. It's going to be a multiverse, and we're going to see like Chris Evans from the Fantastic Four or whatever, and we're going to see other Spider-Men probably, and like I don't know, the Silver Surfer maybe or whatever. But like it's going to be for a few movies, and then Marvel's going to be like, all right, we're done. We're back to the main story. Because I don't think Kevin Feige is ambitious enough to do that. He wants narrative. He doesn't want like a big sprawling thing where now every movie has this interconnected thing. I think it's going to be we explore it for 2 movies or whatever, like WandaVision and then Doctor Strange and maybe a Spider-Man movie, and then it's like, and we wrap it all up.
Well, to scoot back real quick to what I was trying to say is I thought that it was like, oh, well, at least DCU has a multiverse they're doing, and that's going to be unique to them because they've already been doing it in The Flash and things like that. And then Marvel comes out and is like, actually, that's phase 2 for us. We've got a multiverse. I think they're going to lean into it a lot more. I hope this is going to be their post Avengers thing where it's like, we're not going to do the Avengers for a bit now. Like we're done with that arc.
Well, or the Avengers arc is going to be a multiverse style arc.
Yes.
You see, I could see him going Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Like this all leads to Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think we'll get like an Avengers where like Tobey Maguire is in the Avengers now.
That's what I hope for.
I think we'll get.
I think Spider-Man 3 is going to be this. I think Spider-Man 3 is going to very much similar to these new Batman properties are going to be all these different Batmen showing up.
Yeah.
We are going to see something that I kind of was hoping wasn't going to happen, but I'm excited for it nonetheless because the possibilities are very fun.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons why with Multiverse of Madness you got Sam Raimi directing it is to have that Spider-Man cloud.
And it makes you wonder if it was the plan all along because
horror cloud.
Yeah.
It's got that horror cloud, yeah.
Drag Me to Hell is a great movie. I don't care what anyone says.
But no, and also people don't realize too sometimes in Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 2, when they're going through the different names of superheroes to be used, they say Doctor Strange, and then J. Jonah Jameson says, no, that's already taken. And so it makes you kind of want. I mean, I'm going way out on a limb now.
Right.
They did not set it up back then.
They didn't set it up in the Fox universe.
This is like because we know in the Snyder Cut, Harry Lennox plays Martian Manhunter.
Yes.
Which, by the way, we're going to be getting more of that apparently.
That's definitely.
It's not just going to be because the thing was in the movie when we see we'll get to the Snyder Cut shit, but like when we see Harry Lennox in Man of Steel, I don't think Snyder was ever like for sure even back then and when he's writing the script in 2012 or whatever, like
he's like that.
We're Martian Manhunter. I think like somewhere in Batman v Superman, he was like, oh, what if I made this guy Martian Manhunter? He's been hiding on Earth for the rest of his life. Like I think it's like one of those things. Like the Doctor Strange thing is like, oh, that's a cool Easter egg. It's like I think Hugh Jackman was going to show up in the first Spider-Man as a cameo, or something like that. But it doesn't mean anything. But now everything means something. We're all Charlie Day with the string on the board.
That's funny because I think one of the most recent episodes was directed by the person that directed that episode of Always Sunny, where is Pepe Silva, it's over here on that. Now it's like that director's like, I didn't forget that scene. I'm making you all do that now. We'll get to it probably next time when we want it once WandaVision finishes. At least I don't know. But I think by the end of this, we got 2 episodes left, I think, in it. Yeah. And then they're going to be like, bombshell, this is where our new world is set up. Yeah. And this is where all the cinematic universe is going to go from here, except for Black Widow. Black Widow is going to be the last of that time old frame. Regime of Marvel. And then we're going to lean into introducing new cast, new crew, get them in young cast so they can age into it. Yeah. So we'd have like, the Young Avengers and things like that. I think that's where we're leaning.
Well, they said didn't say Chris Evans is going to come back as Captain America?
Well, I've heard a couple different rumors. So I've heard that he might be doing like the old man Cap thing where he's like a mentor kind of.
Cool. Get rid of that. Nobody wants to see that.
You kick open the door. Guys, got to throw that out.
One thing
Those are weak numbers.
He'll break his ankle if he tries to do all those kicks like he does in Winter Soldier.
One thing I'm curious about though is I was watching an interview with Paul Bettany about WandaVision, and I think he did this interview, I think, right when the series premiered at first. And, not to spoil any cameos that have already happened so far, but there have been some cool moments throughout the series.
Yeah.
And there was during this particular interview, he said that towards the end of the series, there's going to be a cameo that hasn't even leaked out yet. And like the different moments that have popped up have kind of the rumors of them had been circulating for months prior, but he
So I
said
think at this point we can speculate those rumors out loud because
Yeah.
nothing is in stone yet at this
Someone
point.
was
Yeah.
like, Magneto!
People
Yeah.
have been saying Magneto. People said,
But here's
all
the thing:
kind-
if it was going to be Magneto, we can't talk about it because it's spoilers for WandaVision. But we'll talk about it next time.
well, the problem with it is, and we might as well talk about it because we're talking about X-Men.
The Avengers verse Scarlet Witch is not technically the daughter of Magneto. Neither is that version of Quicksilver because we hear the mention
Right.
of their parents' names in the show.
But the
And it's
Quicksilver
not-
from
yeah.
the Foxverse
Yes.
is. Now the thing about it is, I was talking to somebody and we were talking about Professor Xavier and talking about Eric. We were talking about Magneto and Professor X, and it's like, as history goes on, the meaning of Magneto in particular is going to start fading because
Yeah.
it's integral to his character and his plot that he's a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
We are moving further and further away from the 1930s and 40s.
He'll be 100 years old in a few years or whatever.
Unless you keep everything stuck in that time period, you can't really have a believable Magneto that's still young enough to be active and still a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah.
Because there's really, you've got atrocities throughout history, but they don't come close to the meaning behind Magneto as
Are you
like,
sure being a conservative in Hollywood is very comparable to
they branded me. This is my. He holds up his fist and there's a Twitter check mark on it.
a GOP elephant?
Yeah, that's awful.
I feel-
Cut that out, please.
I'm leaving it in.
But so we need to start being a little. Obviously now you can do all kinds of timey, crazy stuff in this Marvel universe, but
I feel like taking Magneto and putting him into some weird galactic fight with, like, I don't know, Galactus or something, I'd be like, this feels out of place. This doesn't feel like something he should do. It's like taking the Punisher and putting him in something like that. I'm like, that's not where he belongs.
it would be fun though.
It would be fun.
It would be fun,
everything's-
though.
Everything's fun
If you-
for a second, but I'd
Right.
be like, it feels wrong.
Yeah, if you did a Punisher in space and then made it like Machete, if you did like Machete in space, or it's just a schlock gore, just da-da-da-da.
That's
Well, like they
amazing.
did the comic book Punisher kills the Marvel universe,
Yes.
where he kills everybody.
He kills the Marvel universe,
which is all right.
Fun.
The part where
Fun.
he kills the Wolverine is so dumb and would not make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just melts him down to a skeleton.
Yeah, but we've seen that before. We just heal back or whatever. But like,
Everyone needs to chill out for a minute. That's just dumb fun.
yeah, but like that's the thing is like. I like the fact that he's a Holocaust. I don't be very clear.
Yeah.
I don't like that he's a
It's-
Holocaust survivor,
it's
but I like that part of his,
integral to his
character.
story
Yeah.
arc. Yeah.
I like the part in First Class where he's hunting down Nazis. I wanted like a whole spin off of that, but
Yeah.
like,
Have it be that AMC, not AMC, but that Prime show. Was it Hunters or whatever?
yeah, the one with Al Pacino.
Al Pacino. Yeah, but it's
yeah.
Magneto.
Yeah, that would be cool. Let's talk about zombies. We got our first.
Not Marvel zombies.
No, not
Not
Marvel.
Marvel zombies. That could happen.
We're talking
at
about Zack
some point.
Snyder zombies, which are the ones that run. Every other zombie don't run. They don't run. Only Zack's run. Feels like someone else should have gotten there before him, but his are the ones.
Well,
that run.
technically, 28 Days Later is not zombies. It's Rage.
Yeah, I know.
See, I still need to watch that movie. I still
28
have
Days
more.
Later?
Yeah.
Fucking rules,
They're
dude.
good.
Oh, for real?
It's weird.
They're
but
both pretty solid. The first one's great. The second one's pretty solid.
28 weeks later or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's weird that 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead came out so close to each other.
Are both prime early 2000s.
You see,
Yeah.
I remember being a little kid and like going into like the rave movie theater on Colonel Glenn and seeing the poster for 28 Days Later hanging up on the wall, and me being like 6 or 7 years old was like terrified by the poster.
I had it. I rented it on like DVD and was watching in the dark. And that movie's got some creepy moments. There's a great scene in it. It's
Cillian Murphy.
Cillian Murphy.
Brendan Gleeson.
Cillian Murphy. Brendan Gleeson has a great. Get the fuck away from me! He's got a great
He knows
freak
he's
out
about
later.
to die.
Yeah. No.
It reminds me of the. I'm going off a tangent. I was watching World War Z. Okay, movie should have been better, but there's a great moment where Brad Pitt thinks he's about to turn into a zombie, and his family's near him. So he
yeah.
gets them away from him real quick, and he walks over to the edge of a building, and he waits to jump off of it, and he's like, it doesn't happen. He's like, and I was like, that's scary.
Yeah.
I've not seen that movie in the longest time, but I do know Peter Capaldi shows up in it as one of the doctors, and he's a WHO doctor.
Yeah.
And it precurses him to becoming the doctor.
World Health Organization doctor, yeah.
He's a WHO I'm a WHO doctor.
Yeah.
There's a great scene in it where Cillian Murphy goes into this church, and there's all these dead bodies laying around the church, and he's just trying to be quiet. He knocks something over, and a few people just pop up, and just like their mouths agape, just like, oh, and it's freaky as all get out. That was the movie that began the second, that and Dawn of the Dead and The Walking Dead, obviously.
Dawn of the Dead does it, but it's like the blockbuster version.
Yes,
you're on top
that
of
was the indie hits.
Yeah, when you get to the top of the mall and there's just an army of zombies that you're looking at, and you're like, Jesus Christ! And like that was like a big moment for me. I was like, Jesus Christ, this movie's crazy.
Yeah.
But now we're getting a sequel. No, Luke, you can't talk. We're getting a sequel to Dawn of the Dead, kind of a sequel to Dawn of the Dead called Army of the Dead. We just saw the first trailer. What'd you guys think?
What were you?
Start with Luke.
Pop in about that.
Oh,
about anything.
I was just going to say the first zombie movie that I got into was I Am Legend. That was kind of the one that really kind of
Technically, they're vampires, though. Are they zombies? Are they supposed to be vampires?
I mean, at that point, you might as well talk about the Morlocks from the Time Machine.
Yeah, you're
it's like,
probably-
what are they? Subterranean something or others.
I like that movie. I hate the ending.
You just got to go back and
Yeah.
watch the Charlton Heston.
I think the ending, there was the deleted ending that they focus grouped for that movie.
Oh, the alternate one, yeah.
Yeah, is what should have been the ending.
Yeah.
Which is, to them, he's the legend. He's a monster because he steals their women or whatever from them and experiments on them or whatever. That's a cooler ending as opposed to I'm gonna blow myself up or whatever. Like I don't vibe it, but I like that movie. That movie
The
is-
Omega Man. That's
Yeah.
right, the Omega Man. Go back and watch, not Mega Man. Go back and watch the Omega Man of Charlton Heston. Is based on the same Richard Matheson novel, I Am Legend.
Yeah. But we're not talking about I Am Legend right now. We're
not
talking about
I Am Legend.
Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead.
We're
and
talking
what
about
little we know about it.
It's about a rich, I don't know, a rich douchebag essentially left a bunch of money in his Vegas safe, and now there's a big zombie apocalypse, and the world has gone to shit, and they're behind a big wall. They keep the zombies out by a big wall of shipping containers that stretches forever.
Good luck. I'm behind six shipping containers.
Yeah, and they hire Dave Bautista and his team to go get the money.
So it's a bank robbery. It's Ocean's 11 with zombies.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
Great on paper. I love it.
Yeah, and this is the most Zack Snydery we're ever going to get something because it is written, produced, cinematographer. He's a cinematographer, directed, and he's the camera operator.
Really?
Because he said the one thing that he wanted to is like as you get into bigger movies. I've heard them say this in a bunch of interviews. Is he's like the bigger the movie, the further they want you away from the camera. They want camera operators
want
and grips that are
second
there.
assistant.
But like but he still has the same team. But he was like in this movie, he wanted to be the guy shooting these action sequences and making like just bonkers crazy scenes. And from what the little teaser we get, it's not much. I love the aesthetic. I love the world.
There's
I love
some shots that are really solid.
I love the shots, of course. But the big thing for me is I love the vibe. Like the feel of it all looks really cool, and I'm really excited about.
You know what it gave me the weirdest reminiscence of was Mars Attacks. I don't know why, because it has that whole Vegas subsection in Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
I feel like it's probably going to have, very similar to Dawn of the Dead, has a satirical, lightly dark comic. I say that, and he still gets away with some pretty fucking crazy stuff in that movie. There's a zombie baby in that Dawn of the Dead, and you won't forget. You'll forget it until you see it again and been like, oh yeah, that's wild.
Yeah,
because that was his first major feature film was Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, he there's a great story about when he was on he was afraid to do some edgier stuff in the script because James Gunn wrote that movie, by the way.
Yes, James Gunn.
That's where him.
Really?
That's a James Gunny movie right there.
That's
too.
where him and James Gunn met each other, and that's where they became friends or whatever.
That makes a lot of sense now that I think about it.
Yeah.
because it's got that kind of.
Which is why James Gunn's favorite DC movie is Man of Steel.
Yeah.
So, because they're homeboys or whatever. But he was he was on the set and he'd been doing commercials and music videos up until this point. And he got on the set and he was afraid to do some of these edgier things. He would piss off the studio or whatever. And his cinematographer pulled him aside and be like, dude, he goes, they can't fire you now. I was like, what do you mean? Like, they can't fire you. You're on schedule. You're on budget. Everything's going well. And he was like, do it.
Yeah.
They can't fire you.
The worst they can do is cut it.
Yeah. And he's like, they can't fire you. They're too far in. Nothing's going to happen. Ironically enough, in Justice League, over a decade later, that's not the case. But, well, he didn't fire. He left the project. But he did a big, let's talk about the trailer. I don't want to get too sidetracked because we have another trailer that we're going to talk about later. What did you think of it?
Well, I mean, pretty much there wasn't much to see other than setting.
We get some nice like
tone.
smoldering shots of Dave Bautista.
Yeah, you got some great Army Batista there. I watch anything with Dave Bautista at this point. He's really winning me over for things.
Chris D'Elia was edited out of the movie and replaced with Tig Notaro. Because Chris D'Elia
is a piece of shit.
Sexual harasser. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good. I love Tig.
I love that it's on the nose enough to where there's a guy with a baseball bat and nails.
Yeah.
Like he was like, they're like you don't see it at first. They're like, let me find my perfect zombie weapon, and he like slowly comes into frame.
I
was
just rewatched Shaun of the Dead recently, and immediately that guy I was like, I thought he was about to pull up a cricket bat, and I was like, okay, I could kind of see where this character is going a little bit. I think that's more of a teaser than anything. Is just like, because you really don't have an idea for the plot. Mm-hmm. You don't really. It's mostly here's the setting. Here's some. You got your heroes. We'll see about that, and then you got the scale. You know, this is a wall of zombies kind of situation.
Yeah, we get that big like Lord of the Rings shot where it's just like zombies as far as you can see.
The Vegas Strip just covered, and so it kind of recalls something more like World War Z, like where it's like one zombie is not the deal here. There is no such thing as one zombie. They run in herds, and the herds are just like a blob of the undead.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, and I also want to believe that the reason why it was cut so short is because there's lots of other more grisly scenes in it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I'm always about some special effect zombie violence, and so let's
he
see.
said in an interview with Grace Randolph, he said it's a hard R. And then he said that it's like all the zombies are 99% practical. The only time you use CGI is when it's a big shot of like 10,000 zombies.
Hey, that's all right with me, man.
Cool. Cool stuff. I thought it looked cool. I like the weird like magenta font.
Yeah.
It looks like an 80s nightclub. That's kind of cool. Is it from director of Dawn of the Dead and Man of Steel comes? And I was like, that's kind of a cool vibe.
Yeah.
I
I'm
hope they
definitely
kind
going
of
to
keep
have
that
to
up.
watch it again from a closer angle to see if I pick up on anything else. But I was like, okay, it looks pretty.
Let's talk about the real thing we're here to talk about. Mondo Season 2? No. Zack Snyder's Justice League Trailer 2, baby.
We've got, a few more weeks?
Yeah. I'm ready, man. I'm ready. I have a whole little soliloquy planned. I've written it out and everything. I'm going to read it on air. But we get a new look at everything, and I thought it was fucking awesome.
It was amazing.
We get a fucking shot of Granny Goodness, like the one character, and like every time a trailer comes out, someone online always bitches like, "Oh, they're adding even more characters. Oh, don't they know when to stop?" And I'm like, "Fuck you! Don't you want to see Granny Goodness in a movie? She's not gonna have any dialogue probably, but she's there.
She's there.
That's
it's
cool.
It's not gonna take anything out. It fills out the gaps. Anything. And I mean, you open up any comic book, and it's going to be loaded with characters in every scene.
Absolutely.
Like it's kind of just true to the style, if any, true to the medium rather.
Yeah.
But
I'm just hoping that it kind of opens the door for the Snyderverse to carry on. You know what I mean? Like if this does well enough,
one can dare but dream a beautiful dream.
And then Rob made a good point too the other day. We were doing some recording on a tune the other day, and we got to talking about the Snyder cut, and he said that this is the first time kind of in Hollywood that like it's Zack Snyder's Justice League. You know what I mean? Like they full blown just gave him the reins and were like, do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they did a big Vanity Fair article that I read, and it was very touching because he talks about Christopher Nolan and Deborah Snyder. Because you never think that Christopher Nolan, but he was involved he was a producer and story writer on Man of Steel.
yeah, he was there from the beginning.
I thought since then he kind of slowly took a step back and was like, now y'all just do whatever you want or whatever. But apparently he was slightly a producer on BVS, and he was an executive producer. He isn't listed as an executive producer on the theatrical version of Justice League, but I thought that was just kind of a formality. But apparently he went to a screening and gave notes and stuff, and when Joss Whedon left and came on board, they saw his cut of the movie. Christopher Nolan and Deborah Snyder saw the movie, and then they went to Zach at his home, and Christopher Nolan straight up said, "You can never see this movie. It'll break your heart." That's a quote from this article or whatever. And I was like,
this is recent, right? This
just came out like a week ago.
Because I've seen, I think I saw some links of it where it's like, because this is obviously building up to this,
Yeah.
to the release of the movie.
Yeah.
And
I think this article also might have been like they recorded it or wrote it a good while back, and now they're
Like it's just
the
now
press
seeing the light
release.
of
The
day.
now it's
campaign
starting-
is hyping up, so now you're dropping.
Because now
it.
we're starting to get mainstream, and I'm liking that this is sort of clearing some of the gunk out, because it's like, let's hear from Zack Snyder's point of view. Let's interview him on a mainstay like Vanity Fair or some other things, and let's get some.
They talked about
have him
the-
clear the air about all the stuff that went on before this drops.
They talked
And
about the
it's-
Jeff Johns and John Berg, who were for a while were the sort of heads of DC for like 2 movies, and they were after Justice League happened.
Yeah.
But they talked about how he was given that 2-hour mandate for his movie,
Which is crazy.
and he said he literally thought it was a joke to
Right.
make a movie with 6 superheroes, 7 if you
2
include-
hours.
And I mean, keep in mind he was also going to have Martian Manhunter and Steppenwolf and Darkseid. Like 2 hours, fuck out of here with your 2 hours. Like it doesn't make any sense. He talked about how like Jeff Johns and John Berg were there because the studio were worried that it was going to be as dark as Batman v Superman. He basically said that was never my intention to make Justice League that dark, because he felt like Batman v Superman had to be dark so that when we get to the team buildingness of Justice
It's
League,
triumphant.
it's a funner sort of vibe of bringing people
it's like
together.
it's like you got to have the Empire Strikes Back situation where you have stakes and a send off before everyone comes together. And
Yeah.
it's just like we got to save the day.
And
well, in the
he-
words of Harvey Dent, the night is always darkest just before the dawn.
There's that Chris Nolan connection.
Yeah.
as well.
And he said that Jeff Johns and John Berg were given orders from the studio to be there on set every day. And Snyder said it did kind of feel like he was being babysat a little bit. And he said he never minded it because most of the ideas that he was given were usually just things like, maybe we can find a way to make this a little more fun, add a little bit of humor. And then he expressed frustration that we added this humor and these changes, and then they said we want a 2-hour mandate, requiring him to now cut out all those things that he added that they sort of specified him to do in the first place. So, and then we get to the Joss Whedon drama, which is he only ever had one conversation with Joss Whedon about taking over the movie.
Really,
Zach
they didn't
and
even
Joss?
talk any more than
Yeah,
that.
and I was like, that's incredible that you're taking over a movie that has 4.5 hours of footage, and you don't want to talk to the director of it long enough to get an idea. Like, what was your idea? What are you going for? Which it became clear, like at that point, like Joss was just going to sort of remake the movie.
Right.
So Zach and Joss only talked once.
Once. And
That's
the only
crazy.
reason they talked in the first place is because Joss Whedon was brought onto the movie initially because Snyder was going to direct reshoots, and Joss was going to write them. And he's like, oh, I thought it would be fun. We would write a scene or two and we would put them into the movie. And then when Zach stepped away, it became clear that like Joss was going to direct the movie, and like those few reshoots became like 80 pages of script reshoots, which is like 90 minutes or whatever of screen time or whatever. But the big thing that I heard, and I'm going to have to paraphrase this a little bit. This is the biggest thing I took away from this. They got an anonymous quote from a executive at WB, and he goes, the guy said the thing that was really disappointing is after all this trouble, when we sat down and watched Joss Whedon's cut, he goes, we were stupefied. He's like the terrible robber on top of the roof that Batman busts, the dumb Russian family, stupid and unnecessary. He's like, it was a real piece of shite, is what he said, or piece of shit, or what he said.
Shite.
Yeah. And he goes, and nobody around us could admit it. And it was like, and I was like, it feels weirdly gratifying. I imagine if I was Zack Snyder, it would feel very gratifying to hear a executive from the studio do a mea culpa like that. But enough of that nonsense. Let's talk about the trailer. We get a line from Ben Affleck where before we see some really cool nightmare shots, and he goes, I had a dream, almost like a premonition. A premonition is a dream, Batman. You don't have to say both of those lines. But the big thing that we should probably talk about is
premonition.
the big thing we talk-
almost like a dream. Almost like a forsoothing.
the big thing we should probably talk about is the thing that happens at the very end is we get our look at Jared Leto's Joker. Matt,
We live in a society.
You were famously not that much a fan of Jared Leto's Joker. What did you think of it, all things considered?
Let's see if he gets to do anything. You know me. I'm very much like warmed up to this whole thing. I'm very excited for this. I'm excited to see what.
Yeah,
this
you've
is
been hanging
going
out
to
with me
be.
for a year.
Yeah, I've been
whispering
eating-
propaganda into your ears.
I've been drinking the Kool-Aid and going all in, but I've been sort of a convert back over for the most part after seeing the BVS director's cut.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is pretty solid. Like, all right, I'm on board with this. I'm kind of leaning in more onto this. I'm still kind of like let's see what happens with this character. It's very possible that this could work in the context of whatever it's doing. I mean, we've got a lot of movie here.
We
We've
know
got
it's-
4 hours. You know, we've got if you're doing the episodic thing, you got 4 episodes.
I have info on that. It is being released as a full movie. There is a timeline of chapters in the bottom, so you can kind of go through in 4 parts as
Right.
well. So it sort of is and isn't a miniseries in time. You can watch
Right.
it sort of 1 hour at a time, like that.
You can kind of do what they did with The Irishman on Netflix, where it's like
Yeah.
if you care about movies, you can sit down and watch the whole fucking thing and
Yeah.
deal with watching a movie, or you could do it as like, I'll watch this part of it. And
I never
really,
understood people who were upset that it was like a 4-hour movie. Like, you can always just pause it and come back.
Yeah, you can always just pause it and come back, or slate time to watch a movie
Yeah.
like people used to do.
Yeah.
You're fine with doing it on your phone. Anyway, all of
We
a
know
sudden my
that-
eyebrows just turned
Calm
gray,
down.
and I was just I started
Get
turning
off
into
my
Martin
lawn.
Scorsese. You used to be able to do it before you looked on your phone.
But we know that Joker scene takes place in the nightmare.
Yes.
Because of that big orangey
Which
glow.
makes me think it's not a nightmare, or maybe maybe it's an alternate timeline thing.
Well, Zack Snyder said, because that is a reshoot. He got a
Of course, it's a reshoot.
He got a
That
chance.
is definitely not in that original cut.
He got a chance to do about a 5-minute scene that he added. I've given my theory on it, which is they're going to have to team up with the Joker in the Nightmare Premonition, which is why there's this kind of water under the bridge. Because what he says to him is, we'll get to the we live in a society meme in a second. He said, we live in a society where honor is a distant memory. Isn't that right? And he turns around,
Batman.
and Ben Affleck does not look like he's about to kill him.
Right.
It looks like he's like, I got to deal with this piece of shit again.
Yeah, it's like, okay.
So I think...
Oh, you made it.
Because we know Ray Fisher came back for that scene. Ben Affleck came back for the scene. Joe Manganiello, Deathstroke. We're getting some more Deathstroke.
Yep.
And I think his Mad Max Justice League is going to be Deathstroke, Batman, Cyborg, Flash, Joker, Mira.
Yeah.
Going to be those people.
It's kind of a little bit, if I'm going to draw a comparison to like what Marvel's doing, it's after the snap and who's left.
Kind of, yeah.
Who's left after
By the way,
Darkseid 1?
Zack Snyder's post-snap, way cooler than Marvel's post-snap. The world is destroyed. It's really nice to, it's nice to look at. And if it was real, it'd be terrible.
Right.
But if it was on like a movie screen, I'd be thinking like, looks really cool. Fire pits, everything's kind of orangey.
Yeah.
I love it.
So we live in a society, which has been one of my favorite little just running memes in general. Its origin hasn't really come from anything. I think it's just kind of came out of osmosis.
Yeah.
And
I
then
feel
it
like
got,
people misunderstand what the meme is too sometimes.
Well, also, I don't know where it came from, but it comes from the idea of like all the existential dread we have about, corrupt governments or whatever you want to complain about, and just be like, well, we live in a society
Where X is a thing. Yeah.
well, or even just we live in a society, because then the whole joke is like there's a scene in Todd Phillips,
I think so.
his Joker,
Yeah.
where we live in a society where people da-da-da, and everyone just kind of went, yeah, it's say the line, Bart, we live in a society, yay. But now I don't know how I feel about it. It is intentional. It is intentional that Zack Snyder put that, or he put that scene in there. I'm imagining he supervised this trailer and was like,
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
put that we live in a society in there. That's gonna.
But it's also a line.
It is
'Cause
also a
he says
line.
it to Batman.
But it
it's
wasn't
not just
a line
like an
before,
80-yard thing you put
right,
to be
but
funny.
it wasn't the line before the script was written.
Yeah.
This was the reshoot line.
Yeah, of
He's
course.
like, he's sitting there grinning like, hey, Jared,
Can you say this,
we
please?
live in a society, right? Don't we? And he's like, if anybody knows about societies, it's me, Jared Leto's Joker.
Yeah.
So
Here's the thing about that line that I think is interesting. Like, that line basically became a way for us to, that meme or whatever, became a way for us to sort of look at the problems in our world and kind of meme them in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas,
we live in a society.
but
Get a load
in
of
the
this
context
society.
in the context of Todd Phillips' Joker, it's basically the opposite kind of happens. It becomes a thing where now we have like the disgruntled anarchist loners who burn everything down, like we live in a society where
Right.
blank and blank and blank and blank, and they have a monologue. I feel like it's kind of poking fun of that a little bit.
I hope
Kinda?
it does. I hope it's one of these things where Batman gets a chance to just be like really gets to pounce on the Joker's philosophy and
Well,
just be like, listen, you little punk. You know, you talk about all this and you think you have such great anarchistic meaning and everything, and now that it's here, it never mattered in the first place.
Yeah, I like to think I hope to God that's what happens, which is we get there as the Joker is like, we live in a society where honor is a distant memory. Now, honor is a weird thing for the Joker to talk about.
Right.
I don't think when he says honor, he means honor as you and me would understand it. He'd be like, honor a criminal's honor, an anarchist sense of honor. Whereas like now that like I've always wanted to burn the world down, and now that it's here, God, it's so boring, and I miss you, Batman.
Yeah,
I miss
that's how
our
you should
adventures.
play that character.
Like, I think that's what it is, because he looks sad. He
Yeah.
looks sad, but to be fair, he looks great. I love the new design, long hair, no tattoos. Like he's got a big smear of red all over his face. It's very. I think it looks better as far as the design.
You all have seen the picture of him with the crown of thorns, and the Jesus imagery right there.
I saw that.
Yeah, that was trippy.
I don't think that's in the movie.
That's not in the
I think it's just like,
movie.
hey, we're shooting photos for the press release. You want to put this on?
Again, we'll see if it comes out. Obviously, a lot of people took that and just rolled their eyes with it, and I was like.
I think me and Ryan talked about it. We sparred over it on Facebook,
and I lean into the idea of it's knowing. It's winky. It's like, I know how y'all think about this Joker, how you think about the way this character, as opposed to Ledger's Joker, as opposed to Phoenix's Joker.
Yeah.
You know, this is very different.
I also kind of like this. Sorry to keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
And I think it's kind of like he's going to be the icon for a dangerous world, or an icon for this world that he's going to show up in.
That's what I was about to get to.
But again, we'll see. I think it's purposeful. I don't think it's grandiose. I think that's a little too on the nose for grandiosity.
Yeah, I feel like in a world where everything is scorched, the only heroes you could rely on are like...
In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Yes, and he's like, your hero is now a lunatic.
Right.
And a assassin for hire, and a robot man, and a crazy post-apocalyptic Flash, and a gun-toting Batman. Yeah. It's kind of like you've turned the morality on its head, kind of thing.
Right.
That's what I took away from it. I know people looked at it and were like, this is so over the top symbolism. Be more subtle. I don't think there's going to be a scene where Jared Leto's Joker has a crown of thorns on.
No.
I think like just calm down, internet. Like, not everything has to be like a bloodbath.
But also it's meant to be provocative. It's meant to stir up
I agree
those
with that.
feelings, because other than that, I mean, it's like because you can sit there and be like, well, who made the choice here? Was this Leto's choice, or was this Snyder's choice?
I'm sure Leto was on board, because he seems to be very excited for this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he might be the biggest unintended. Because Zack Snyder said when he did this scene, one of the ideas was he said it always felt wrong that Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker never got in a scene together.
Yeah, because that's where you want to see that's where you want to see the real chemistry.
Yeah,
if this chemistry works.
It directly talks about the death of Robin, and it's all about all that stuff. Right. So I think we are going to get what you want, which is the sparring off between the two of them. Maybe not physically, but like with words or something.
And I think Jared's just stoked to be back in the role, truth be told, because I'd heard kind of on the down low when the Joaquin Phoenix Joker came out that like Jared was kind of salty about that whole thing.
I don't think that's true. I think that's just like another internet rumor. Yeah, because I feel like Jared Leto doesn't strike me as the kind of person who would, like, some people said he tried to stop the movie from getting made. Now, I would imagine him being like, oh, like, he gets a whole movie. I didn't even get a chance to show y'all my Joker. Like, I would feel like that a little bit.
Want to see my Joker?
And, we'll never know unless they get, like, the Ayer cut or whatever comes out and we can judge it.
The cut verse is coming.
Yeah. I feel like that could be weird, though. Like, maybe, like, Zack Snyder's version continues on and David Ayer's gets released and we get Justice League 2 and 3.
I mean,
and that's an HBO Max.
Who knows what's going to happen in
thing.
The Suicide Squad? You know?
Because that's a James Gunn one.
James Gunn might just be like...
He said he wants the Ayer cut to come out. He said, I'm all for people getting to say what they want to say. Yeah, the Russo brothers said that about Zack Snyder. He said they said Anthony Russo, I think, was asked about it in an interview, and he said, like, I think it's great that he's getting to finish that movie. He's like, I want to see it. He's like, I didn't really want to see the theatrical version again. Like, so I was like,
yeah, they were all just like, hey, come on.
So like, I think the filmmakers get it. I don't think they have
this
any.
This is an inside baseball sort of deal, but I mean, Yeah.
Luke, what was some shit you liked in the Zack Snyder's Justice League trailer?
Man, honestly, I like seeing the black Superman suit coming through.
I'll kill you.
Yeah.
I'll launch across the room.
Yeah, no, that was my bad. No, the black Superman suit.
It looks so sick,
Yeah.
and he looks so intimidating too, with the eyes, glowing.
Oh
up
yeah, at
and
the very
everything.
end, we
Yeah.
get the shot of he comes in and just laser eyes,
Yeah.
whoever he laser eyes or whatever.
And just like the color grading of it too, man. Like, because I remember seeing the trailer for Justice League back when it was Snyder's thing, and like the way they had the final battle color graded looked sick back then. But then like
Then you see the movie and it
yeah.
looks like a 3-camera sitcom color graded it. It looks really weird and clunky.
It's just it wasn't the right thing. But like seeing that they're going back to that vibe, and just it just has that big feel. It feels like Watchmen. You know what I mean? It has the big feel of like what Watchmen did.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I remember the first time I saw the trailer for Watchmen, and I was just blown away by the scope of it cinematically.
Same.
Yeah.
I remember.
I remember
Yeah.
that Smashing Pumpkins song.
Yeah,
Because me and my friend were looking forward to it, and it's like, ooh, they're going to drop a teaser during the Dark Knight release.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
we
right, I
saw
remember
it.
that.
We saw the opening. We saw Dark Knight opening night, and we're like, ooh, we're gonna get like a teaser, and it was an out and out trailer, and we were
Yeah.
just like, we could
See
barely
the
pay
owl
attention
ship
to the
coming
rest
out of
of
the
the
water
movie.
and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we could barely pay attention to the rest of the movie because we're just like, oh, that Watchmen trailer.
and that's what blew my mind with it too, man. Because like when I remember going to see The Dark Knight on the opening day, and I had never heard of Watchmen, even the comics prior to seeing The Dark Knight. So the first time I'm seeing the trailer is the first time I'm having any exposure to any kind of Watchmen
Any of that
content.
context.
I saw the
Yeah.
movie
Because I know some
before
people were-
saw the comic book.
Yeah.
before I read the
Because I
comic
know
book.
there are some people who watched it and were just like, the fuck is this?
That's kind of what I
Is this
thought.
a totally
Yeah.
new property? Like what?
Yeah.
Because I had
That's why
read the comic beforehand, and I had seen references to it before, being like, "Oh, this is something I need to see." And so my friend and I had read the Alan Moore comic, and just like, "Oh, this is dope." And then we heard about the movie, and we're like, maybe we'll get like, and then we got more than we were expecting,
Right.
which is always fun.
yeah. It's another rated movie. Didn't do well at the box office though. Technically a bomb.
Technically a bomb. I
real
think
good
it's one
one.
of Snyder's better movies.
Yeah,
for sure.
I
I
enjoyed
think
it.
it might be his. It's definitely near the top for me. I actually think that BVS is more interesting than Watchmen. Like Watchmen, like especially the director's cut. It's quite long, and it's quite. It can be a bit of a slog at times. I feel like Batman v Superman is more interesting. Watchmen might be better though.
I just want a Watchmen and DCU crossover. And I know we've been talking about crossovers making jokes, but that is a crossover I legitimately
It happened in the
want,
comic
though.
book.
Well, it happened in the
Yeah.
comics. It
Yeah.
technically exists there.
Yeah.
No one liked it when it ended.
Or
Super-
before Watchmen.
Yeah. Oh yeah, those are okay. I read one or two of those.
My only favorite thing from that is the scene where the comedian's in Vietnam and he's walking out of a thing and he's talking about like something like you have to get on the pot or shit, and it's just a single word bubble that says it's time to shit, and that never fails to make me laugh.
Now, did you watch the most recent Watchmen TV show on HBO Max?
Great.
Yeah, it's
It
great.
was amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
That's how you take a risk with something and make it
Yeah.
work.
It's weird how all three of those properties are so different.
Yeah.
The comic book is, of course, like the dialogue or whatever is the same as the movie for the most part. But the movie is in a weird, different kind of context than the comic book.
Mm-hmm.
And the show is about sort of a different set of ideas than what the comic book is about. The comic book is about superheroes.
Yeah.
It's about a commentary on superheroes.
Right.
The show's not about superheroes. The show is about like love in a way. How love is powerful.
Honestly,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
That ending of it, which I don't know if we want to get into spoilers on
No,
the
don't
show
do it
or not.
because we might
Okay.
do an episode one
We
day.
might do an episode
okay.
on that if I go back and rewatch it. That does something very interesting about what also is in Watchmen, which is alternate history.
Yeah, that too.
And then you get an alternate history
Vietnam is your 51st state.
Yeah.
Which technically is in the
book
book and
book
in
as
the
well,
movie
yeah.
too. So yeah.
and you know you have the Nixon administration goes on for like 10 years, but then you have
Robert
the
Redford?
Robert Redford administration.
That's
go
the
on.
part that
Which
blows
is
my
in the
mind.
comic book, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's referenced in there.
And it even references Snyder's movies because I think I said this to you. There's a line in the movie that's not in the comic book, I think, and I think it's I feel fear for the last time. It's when he becomes Dr. Manhattan, and his body gets pulled apart, and he goes, "This is the last time I was ever afraid." And there's also that scene is referenced in the show, but that's a line from the movie.
That's
It's
not
not a line from the
it's not
comic
in the
book.
comics,
So
yeah.
that was weirdly interesting how it kind
It's-
of
it's-
takes this amalgamation of all of it.
Which the special effects in that scene where when he becomes Dr. Manhattan in the movie, I'll never forget. That was the scene that stuck out to me from the trailer. The
Was when
first
he
time.
just gets split apart. From
Yeah.
the atomic level.
That's my favorite part of the movie. I know everyone else says it's the first 10 minutes. My favorite scene in that movie is Dr. Manhattan's story.
Yeah.
You see how
I love in the extended cut he goes more into it, and it's just you get this and
I love
at 11:65 p.m. a circulatory system walks several feet.
I remember
it
that,
shows
yeah.
his view of time.
Yeah.
And the show does that very well as well. But I also love the fact that even like you're an actor. I love Billy Crudup's delivery where he's like, all we ever see of stars are their shadows because their light is so far away. And it takes so long to reach us. All we ever see of stars are their shadows or whatever. And you see these little, and the only thing I would say is I wish it had some lines from the comic book, because as Dr. Manhattan is tracing back his own creation, he has this weird crisis of destiny or whatever, where he's like, which one of these moments made me? If my girlfriend hadn't dropped the watch for it to get stepped on, I would never had to have fixed the watch, which I only knew how to do because my father made me fix watches.
Right.
And then I fixed the
They
watch,
cut
but
out
I
the
leave
whole
it
thing
in.
about my father was a watchmaker, and
which
that
is in
taught
the
me
extended deal as well.
Yeah, and it's like that taught me about God. Is God a watchmaker who just sets it up and then leaves
a clock
be
with no
clockmaker.
craftsman. Yeah. And he said, and he goes, if I never fix the clock, I never leave it in the reactor, and I never go to get it, and I never get locked in. And he's like, all these moments that had to conspire to make me. And he goes, maybe there is no God. They claim to want a heaven, but their heaven is filled with horrors. It's a great. The comic book does it better, but just seeing that in movie form, I was like, this is like 5-star cinema. That's good shit.
And talking about the performance,
And then I had to hear idiots on the internet be like, he doesn't understand the source material. And I'm like, he kind of does. I think he gets it.
Yeah, no, I think he gets it.
And now Dr. Manhattan's the Flash's dad.
That's the thing about that's why I didn't like
But that is the thing. Like, casting Billy Crudup is a good choice because he's got a good look and his voice is really great.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was good casting just from a vocal standpoint, because you got to nail that. Because Billy Crudup's voice has always kind of been in the back of my head since he did the voice of the male lead in Princess Mononoke for the English dub.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it's just, oh, it's a spirit. Oh, there are angry ghosts everywhere. And I was like, now looking back at it, I'm like,
He's
I'll
so
probably
zen.
take the Japanese one every time. But
Yeah.
I'm like, it stuck with me because I saw it when I was a kid, and I was like, that voice stuck with me.
It's such a good performance. It made me feel a little bad for what was his name? Abdul. Oh, no, what's his name?
I know you're thinking about
The guy who plays Dr. Manhattan in the show,
Right.
Because he also gives an interesting take on it. It's
Well,
a
he's
little
playing
more.
two different performances, though.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
playing without getting into the detail.
Yeah.
He's
a little
front
more-
loading a lot, but his character also is a character who, well, time doesn't mean anything to Dr. Manhattan,
Yeah.
but has had time,
Yeah.
So it is almost a little more just like not jovial, but a little
Whimsical.
more kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't like about it. Is it feels like he kind of turns his back on some ideas from his history. But that being said, characters are allowed to change. It's been 20-something years or whatever. But anyway.
Since the comic book has been almost 35 years.
Yeah, but my favorite part of the trailer, I think, was seeing the black suit Superman, and we get the Jonathan Kent monologue from Man of Steel, and we get the rocks around his hand again. Like those little throwbacks to that movie, which feels so such a distant, removed movie from Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League looks so different, and it's like we're bringing in Batman and Green Lanterns and Deathstrokes and New Gods, and visually it looks different. Where going back to that movie is like a time capsule now. Like that was the movie that kind of started all this, and I think it felt really good to have a little throwback to that movie in it. But
And now we'll see Ryan Reynolds come back as Green Lantern in the Snyder Cut.
It could happen.
I don't hate him as Green Lantern. I just hate that movie.
Yeah.
Not a good movie.
Yeah.
You see, I've heard rumors though. Zach teased like a huge cameo at the end of the Snyder Cut, and I've heard rumors that it could just be Martian Manhunter. Like they're just going to give him
It could be that. There's another superhero in the Snyder Cut that isn't a superhero yet, and it's we've seen pictures of him with Cyborg's dad, and it's Ryan Choi who becomes the Atom. Their version of the Ant-Man, or I guess Ant-Man is Marvel's version of the Atom, rather. But what was your favorite part of the trailer? And then we'll get to talking about what we're talking about today.
I just like seeing more of it get fleshed out. I am really excited for the Nightmare World, for what that's going to look like, for what that 5 minutes.
A lot of it,
and so I'm excited for the new things that are going to be. I think actually that is kind of catching my interest the most. I am also ready to see more of the dark side court intrigue a little bit, if we're even gonna, but we're gonna get some of that to fill out
Ray
more.
Porter is an actor. He's confirmed. I was Darkseid. I did motion capture with Peter Guinness and Kieran Hines, and I have several scenes with them. And yeah,
So that's, I mean, for me, watching a lot of this, it's so much to take in such
it's a
small
4-hour-long movie.
Yeah,
so ready.
we're seeing a
And we've only
dusting
seen
of-
30 minutes of footage in the theatrical version of that Snyder shot. Really,
So they
we're just
really changed
seeing
that
We're
much.
just seeing the seasoning of what is to come, and let's.
it's gonna be a lot of shit, man.
Before we go on, since we're into 2021, I wanted to do a quick, for obits for some actors who have left us.
Yeah, we lost some good ones.
I mean, there's been several different people, but I'm just going to bring up a couple of folks. Hal Holbrook was a really great award-winning actor. Played Mark Twain a lot, and kind of made that. He was that guy who showed up and stuff. Cloris Leachman, who was a great actress.
Sounds so familiar. Cloris Leachman. Who's that?
She was in Mary Tyler Moore, and she was in Young Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
But so she was a comedy actress for a lot of time. But speaking of Miyazaki films, I mostly remembered her because she voiced Madame Zaniba in Spirited Away, the big witch lady.
Yeah.
That was Cloris Leachman. So she did a lot of voice work as well. The legendary Tony-winning Cicely Tyson, great African-American actress, didn't do a lot in major films recently, but had this huge run on stage and was an icon in her own right. She actually just had a book come out literally the day before she passed away.
Oh God.
At 96. So no tragedy, but a legacy. And, motherfucking Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
Motherfucking Christopher Plummer. 91. No tragedy, but I feel like he's been around forever.
I think I've seen him. I used to always get confused with Max von Sydow.
That's not shocking, given the way they look, given that they were both very active in their late age.
Yeah.
And
Christopher Plummer reshot an entire movie in like 12 days.
Yeah.
It's the Ridley Scott
all
one.
the money in the world.
Yeah.
Because after Kevin Spacey was
For being a monster.
yeah, Kevin Spacey launched himself into the galaxy in a toilet. Christopher Plummer came in and says, "I'll do it."
Yeah.
And that's where all the
At
jokes.
his age.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Of course, one of the last big things he was in was Knives Out. He was great in Knives
That's
Out.
a great
so
movie.
good at Knives Out. Most people know him for a role that he says he never liked that much is playing Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. So he was the father of the Von Trapp family in Sound of Music, and I had to post the great GIF of him after the war's over, and he's ripping up the swastika. After he's like, "Fuck the Nazis," and I was like, "That's a great one." Thanks for that, Chris.
Yeah. He's also in Alexander. He plays Aristotle.
Yep.
Remember that? For like one scene. It's a weird movie.
That's a weird movie, but he's a really solid.
Colin Farrell's good in it. That's a weird movie. It's too long.
Sack of wine. Yeah, some.
You're thinking of Troy.
Is that Troy?
You're thinking of Troy.
I get those movies mixed up because it's Brad Pitt. in both
Troy
of them.
is more fun than Alexander, but
Yeah.
it's not as good a movie.
No, it's. I think more people will say Troy is a much more fun movie.
Immortality, take it, it's yours. Remember that movie?
So and then Larry King.
That's
and a
one of the.
couple
By the way,
folks.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. That's one of the few movies where a director's cut made it worse. Troy. If you've seen the director's cut, it's weird. None of them. They didn't change the music. So the music swells at wrong parts. Like, you remember when Achilles storms the beach and fights his way up to the temple, and it's this really cool kind of action scene, and the music is like James Horner, by the way, who also passed away several years ago, rewrote the score in like 10 days. Ridiculous.
Everybody get in. Everybody get in. Clean them strings off.
Yeah,
Let's get going.
And Gabriel Yared, who originally did the score, said he spent 9 months working on it, and no one ever got to hear it. He's real sad about it. James Horner was famous for being kind of an asshole, but he wrote some great scores. Braveheart being probably my favorite or whatever. But yeah, so in that director's cut, the music swells way before he gets up to the temple, so it doesn't feel right, and it just doesn't.
They've extended the scene, but they didn't extend the soundtrack.
Yeah, they just put generic temp music after that happens, and it just doesn't. It feels clunky.
They needed you, Rob.
They needed
you in there.
me.
All they had to do was click and pull that track over
a little bit.
But yeah, so those are some of the obits. Was glad to get some of the. Well, not was good to get some of those to start off. Hopefully,
Christopher Plummer wasn't Christopher Plummer in that soccer movie with Sylvester Stallone?
Soccer movie.
It's called like Victory, and Pele and Michael Caine were all in it. It's about like it's The Great Escape, but with soccer players. And they make the prisoners play the German national team during Nazi-occupied World War II. It's a weird, kind of fun little movie. Sylvester Stallone's a boorish American who's actually okay at being a goalie. I think it was him or Max von Sydow that were in it. It's probably Max von Sydow because he was actually German. So it feels like
Christopher
it would be.
Plummer was most notably Canadian.
Okay, fair enough. I'm almost certain it was Max von Sydow.
Yeah,
No.
he was one of the Sons of Canada. He mostly just played like kind of slightly villainous older men in his later career because he was also the father in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo,
I remember
the
that.
David Fincher one.
Yeah.
He's pretty menacing in that. So yeah, there's that.
Okay. Mandalorian season 2, baby.
Mandalorian season 2.
So good.
Let's talk about it. Is it good?
I loved
Will
it.
I surprise you all and think it's garbage? We don't know.
Well, when we last left off in Mandalorian season 1, I mean the show was a hit.
Mm-hmm.
No shocker
It
there.
is a hit still.
But it left off a big impression. It almost feels like it wasn't that long ago either.
because it wasn't. It was only
Yeah,
last year.
the turnover for that. For one thing, this was a very fortunate series in that it had a very successful run and a very successful in terms of production. Got in under
the COVID radar.
the COVID radar and got in like immediately before productions everywhere else got shut down and was like, it's a wrap. We got it. We got what we needed.
Yeah. They finished it all up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And speaking of production too, I'm glad you mentioned that because like the first season, production and special effects wise looked good enough, but you can tell coming into season 2, since it had so much success, I mean, it looked like it had that cinematography feel of like a Gareth Edwards Rogue One. You know what I mean? Like you can tell that they pumped a whole lot more budget into what all they could do.
Yeah.
And they trusted their directors a lot more. This is something that's very interesting is like for Favreau and Dave Filoni, they really enjoy palling around with the people they bring in to direct.
They kind of brought in mostly the same cast, but they added 2, which was Robert Rodriguez and Carl Weathers got to direct an episode, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Carl one was cool.
But they brought back Bryce Dallas Howard.
which she's great.
Yeah.
A lot of people say she had the best episode. I disagree. I think it was Robert Rodriguez.
Well, you know what's one thing that blew my mind? I think I read this, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Peyton Reed, who directed Ant-Man, directed the season finale.
Yes.
Yeah, but didn't he do one last season too? Or was I wrong?
I don't recall. I have to look that up real quick.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because he got the last episode because originally it was Taika did the brilliant season finale.
Peyton Reed did the last one and the one with the snow spiders and the frog lady.
Ah, okay. That's an
Frog
interesting
lady
one.
cracked me up.
Yeah, so the passenger.
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard did the heiress. Oh man, that one's kind of great.
Told you.
Carl Weathers got the siege. Dave Filoni did the Jedi. Rodriguez did the tragedy. Rick Famuyiwa
Yeah.
did the Believer, and then Peyton Reed did the finale. So he got 2 in.
Yeah.
Let's see, how many episodes is that altogether?
8.
8 episodes, longer than season 1.
By one episode, which is good. If you're on Disney Plus, you can do as much or as little story as you want to do.
Yeah.
Which is both a criticism and a praise at the same time. Because sometimes an episode's like 18 minutes long or whatever. I'm like, what? And then there's like an episode that's like 42 minutes. I'm like, yeah.
But what's bad is on the 42-minute episodes, it feels like 15 minutes of it are the credits. They have like the longest credits in
Yeah.
the world.
But they
It's
also have
like-
some really great credits because we just get
Concept art.
we
which
get
is
those
cool.
concept art,
Yeah.
which is sometimes different
Every
from
show
what's
should
finally
do that.
filmed.
Every show should do that from now on.
There's a great video I saw that I posted up on my social media of scenes from storyboards that are exactly like their shots in the films.
I saw that.
And I
There's
want
a couple of those.
I want more because as we mentioned before, not Jean Boon,
Bong Joon-ho.
released the storyboard book for Parasite as a book, essentially like a manual,
A lot of
as a
people do
manga.
that.
And it works because every scene is perfect in that movie.
Yeah.
But I want more of that. I want because they did show a scene from Knives Out, and essentially, I'm guessing Ryan Johnson just did his stick figures.
Yeah.
I get it. I can't draw a circle either. So.
Some of Zack Snyder's storyboards look very much like that.
Well, the one
a
that
lot of
blew-
times they bring in storyboard artists.
Yeah,
to
because
help with
there
that.
was one shot from Fury Road, and it looked like just out of a comic book.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Give me it now."
Yeah. So when they're doing like like Zack Snyder is one of those people who also he storyboards every shot of the movie.
What's good to
that's why
do
he doesn't.
is-
That's why he doesn't shoot with more than one camera because he knows what he wants to do, so he just uses the one.
He seems like the kind of person that would do that. There are some directors where you're like, oh,
Bong Joon-ho, I'm pretty sure also storyboards everything out.
absolutely he does.
I
Because they
think-
showed a scene from a movie I recommended last time, Memories of
Memories
Murder.
of Murder. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna watch it. We're gonna do an
Should.
episode on
It's
it.
phenomenal. It's so good.
Ridley Scott also, I think, is notorious for storyboarding everything out.
Mm-hmm.
Werner Herzog says if you storyboard your movie out, you're a coward.
You see,
Werner
He doesn't do any of it.
related to the Mandalorian.
Bring
But
us back.
Werner Herzog also ate his own shoe.
Let's talk about what we liked about season 1 real quick, briefly. Give our thoughts on it, and then we'll go into
Luke,
season 2.
You're here guesting in. What did you think about it? What did you think about season 1?
What did you like?
think
What did you not like?
improved or kind of wavered in this? Full spoiler territory. Let's
Yes,
go
first-
for it.
first-
It's been
first
long
season
enough.
1 is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about season 2?
Yeah, I guess so.
It's
I guess
been
everyone
long
who's
enough.
watched
Let's
it is
just-
gonna watch
yeah,
it.
This is just a free talk. Obviously, let's save like last episode stuff
for, the
for
very
later
end. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's like the big
big
twisty
thing.
stuff.
Yeah. As far as season 1 goes, man, so kind of precursor before I get into it. I'm one of those that when it comes to the sequel trilogy of Star Wars movies, I liked them for what they were, but at the same time, I kind of recognize the issues that a lot of fans had with the sequel trilogy. Now, going into that with The Mandalorian, what I really liked is, to me, it kind of felt like, it, in particular with season 1, it kind of struck the balance of still acknowledging what has happened, but like kind of going into new territory, but still, there's still enough connective tissue with what came before that it doesn't feel totally distant. You know what I mean?
Because that's definitely something that this series is doing, is trying to dust off parts of the prequels in particular and everything that came out of this season, particularly the Clone Wars, and bring it literally out of
I kept having to
out of the
remind
computer
myself.
and into our world.
Exactly.
I kept having to remind myself this movie takes place after Return of the Jedi. 'Cause I
Yeah, it's like
forget
5
that
years.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think we all liked season 1. I think my big thing was that I always said was like, I wanted it to feel bigger at times. I
Yeah.
felt that it felt very small and very
You were like,
localized. too
big
much.
planets where we're at one town.
I'm tired of going to like a big planet where everything is one climate. Even because that doesn't even make sense. Like magnetically, planets have poles.
Right.
Usually. So the tops are colder than the middles, but like you go to a
That is
planet and it's
something-
all forest and it's all sunlight all the time or whatever.
That is something I
That's
continually enjoy about Return of the Jedi is you have to remember that they're not on Endor. They're on the forest moon of Endor.
Yeah.
And Endor is essentially just like a giant gas planet.
Yeah.
They're on Io or something like that, or Ganymede.
Yeah.
And there is life on that. And I'm like,
And-
that's a cool detail.
I was tired of going to like Navarro, which is where like the home base for all those bounty hunters is. It's a big lava planet with a small town. The episode where they fight the ATST was an okay episode, but it felt very fillery. And I was like, it's a forest planet with a small town. And then you go to like there's an ice planet with a small town. I'm real sick of that shit.
Yeah.
There's a huge universe with giant city planets. That cities is where all the crime is at. It's where all the bounty hunting business should be at. He should be in a big city for a few episodes.
I
please.
would get to that later because I have a theory that I came up recently. I don't think I've talked about it with barely anyone, but it's about what happened at the beginning. When was the Star Wars universe's Star Trek moment? Like, who got to space travel first before all these different alien planets and humanoid planets were living? We'll get to it. This will be a sidebar because Coruscant is the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
But
I'll explain later.
so
if we have time.
did season 2 meet some of those expectations for me?
Yeah,
I
let's see.
think
Let's see what you think.
they did in some ways, and they kind of went the other way in some other ways that I wasn't expecting. What about you, Maddie?
I felt like mostly it was a continuation of the way things were, except now we were more decidedly plot focused. So when you did get kind of, because we really didn't have anything much in the way of filler that wasn't connected. The passenger being the only one that really comes to mind with the fish lady.
Yeah.
And
Probably.
that was and that wasn't an episode I cared for as much, but it still worked. Like, it's kind of like me and a friend were talking about, like, we were talking about Quentin Tarantino, and this is not related to Quentin Tarantino. We're talking about quality. The worst movie of some directors could be the best movie of another creators' work. And so it's like, this is already a show that is so high quality that if The Passenger was its worst episode, it's still better than most like primetime action series.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Because also, like, talking about like locations and things, I love foggy dock locations and things. And I
Yeah,
was
at
like,
least we got to see more than
I
5
got a
people in
Mon
a shot.
Calamari like seafaring dock area where they're all wearing like
Feels a little stereotypical.
little clam
They're
chowder.
fish people. Put them by the ocean.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean,
I
who
never
else?
thought about
But
that.
they're probably migrant workers. They're like, hey, Mon Calamari, put on this New England clam chowder turtleneck and get to work. And I was like,
My
this
favorite
makes
part
sense.
is he uses the Mon Calamari money that he was given in season 1 to pay him. If you a little quick Easter egg there, because
Everyone
I can
remembers
pay
things.
you, but only in Mon Calamari. Blah 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 blah. Or
It's
whatever.
like, all right, fine.
This is what I said. Like that bounty guild feels like such a backwater shithole. I feel like if you went to the bounty guild in Coruscant, you'd be like, we have a million different kinds of currencies to choose from.
Oh,
where
gosh,
are you going?
it's like, it's got like
Do you
rival
want a new ship, by the
gangs.
way? We just throw them away out here.
I mean, we just steal some that are in the dock because the person who docked it, we killed him. Free ship.
Yeah.
It's obviously this season was meant to be like, we are loring here. We are going in on where this universe is going.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to something like WandaVision, where it's like, we're going to show you a glimpse of the
what's to
connective
come.
tissue of what our franchise is going.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, we're using Mandalorian as a way to say, here's some of the new worlds that we're entering into Star Wars. And
Spoiler alert: they're a lot like the old world.
they're a
from the
lot like
first season.
I think, as we said before,
Sorry. I have to say
the
it.
original trilogy is like a gravitational well. And so everything circles around it and cannot go too far from it. Now, Star Wars right now is doing something. Star Wars in itself is going further back. We get the new High Republic books, and obviously they're going to do more media related into that. But what they're not doing or not doing yet is going into the future, past the sequel trilogy, because this none of the connective tissue right now is referencing that
People
world
will
yet.
yell at them because that means you have to deal with the aftermath of the rise of Skywalker.
But if they're dealing with the aftermath of the prequels with full embrace.
Yeah.
And so
we've had enough time. Where
Yeah,
now
we've had
it's
enough
cool
time
to like the prequels now.
See,
we
I
had
love
enough
the
time that
prequels.
Zoomers have grown up being like, I grew up on the prequels, and it's like, well, I can't argue with you that they're not good because
I'll break your heart.
That's your world now. Like, you're right, they are good to you, and it is a lot of great lore. And now it gets to be repurposed and made more finer and shinier. And
I watched Attack of the Clones 2
Best
weeks
God.
ago. It's still bad. We don't like
It's
You
it.
still
see,
bad.
for me, Revenge of the Sith.
Revenge of the Sith is watchable. It's a solid
Yeah.
movie.
For me-
I watched it, and like the thing that I came away with was like, man, if this was anything other than Star Wars, I'd think it was a great movie. It's just it's Star Wars, so we have this weird expectation of it. I still think it's
I think I'm the
solid.
opposite with it. I'm thinking if it was without the context of Star Wars, I would be like, this is a meandering, boring
you know
science
what?
fiction
That's
opera,
entirely
closer to something like
Firefly or some shit. I don't know.
I like Firefly. I ain't gonna drag Firefly in this house. I would be like, this would remind me something more like Jupiter Ascending, where if I have no context for it, this is a boring space opera. But
enough.
with Star Wars as the connective tissue, I'm like, there's things you can do with this because this is a giantly rapid growing world, universe, galaxy, literally.
Right. That's fair, I guess.
So what this season is doing is now going back and saying, like, you know, things that felt risky before we've now done in this, particularly bringing back Boba Fett,
Yeah.
which was amazing.
bringing in Ahsoka Tano,
Yeah.
bringing in Bo-Katan. We are now taking cartoon characters or characters that have been extinct from the series, and we are now giving them flesh, and it's working.
If we set something in the future and someone asks, we should bring back Rey, I can already hear the comments. Like, that's why I say, like, well, we can never. That's what upsets me, is because I don't think Force Awakens and Last Jedi, I think those are great. I think those are two solid movies. I think Rise of Skywalker shits the bed and disrespects its own kind of story that it's set up. I'd be like, Rey's parents are no one, except for now they're not. They are now Palpatines or whatever. Like,
Yeah, that's-
and there's a bunch of that in that movie.
That movie's logic completely vanishes in your head because you're just like, that didn't happen.
The thing that
It
frustrates
happened, man.
what frustrates me more is not even so much the movies themselves, but when you find out that, you know, Disney had the plan to do this sequel trilogy, but there wasn't a cohesive arc they had planned out. They literally just took it, by each movie. At least, like, let's say they legitimately did have a plan. Even if the plan was bad, at least there was a plan in place. With this, they literally just went with it movie by movie.
Lucas had a plan for the prequels, and even though he was not the man to direct them, and I think that would have changed everything, as if they had gotten different directors to handle them, then that would have succeeded.
I think
But no matter what, it's going to succeed because it left. It's almost like it's almost like a pile of droid parts, and now they can just pick and choose those droid parts. It makes a shiny new R2-D2 out of it, or whatever.
I think George Lucas should have done Revenge of the Sith and let someone else start the stories. I think it would have been solid.
You see, I love the prequels. Now, granted, I'm one of those. I was a kid when the prequels came out. You know what I mean? So I'm one of those.
I was too, but I still watch them. Like, Yusa, and I'm like, this bad. I don't like it. It's kind of racist.
I mean, in context, like, I saw Revenge of the Sith for like my 16th birthday, So
how did you walk out of the theater?
Well, my neck hurt because we got front row seats for no reason, and I took two of my friends who had never seen Star Wars, and we were just like, huh.
See, I remember I was
probably hard to enjoy it that close. What's happening on your side? like that.
See, I remember I was in 3rd grade the day Revenge of the Sith came out, and I got checked out of school early. I remember I'd saved up my allowance to buy
Same
some
thing
nachos.
happened to me, but it was Lord of the Rings.
Oh, for real?
Saw Return of the King.
See, when I was in about 5th grade or 6th grade or so is when we went and saw Phantom Menace in theaters.
Which I love that movie. I love it. I know it's controversial, but
it's not controversial. Lots of people love it. I just don't think it's a good. I think it's a boring movie, except for like a few cool scenes and like a big lightsaber. Da-da, da-da, da-da. That's the cool part. That I'm like, I watch that scene. I don't watch the movie. I just YouTube the ending stuff because that's what you kind of want to see. We get a bunch of boring stuff about I will be chancellor of whatever. Like I don't even remember what trade disputes and taxes. I don't know.
I vote for no confidence for Chancellor Valorum.
What does that mean? Okay. I'm a 3rd grader. I don't understand what voting is.
I still don't know what it. I know a lot about politics and governance. I still don't know what a vote of no confidence is or how it's done.
Well, you know what's funny is, have y'all seen the video where someone took the fight with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul, and they deep faked Tobey Maguire wearing the Venom suit and put him as Darth Maul, and they're calling it Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Bully Maguire, and like they deep faked him on there. It's him dancing and doing the thing, and it's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It's pretty good.
That's funny.
All right, let's trace our way through the episodes, because I feel like instead of talking about what do we think of the performances,
this is how we did it last time. Is for one thing, we rated the episodes, but let's just kind of cut through all of them. You start, and I've got the list here. For
great
episodes.
We start with John Leguizamo as an alien, drug lord.
Didn't recognize him at all.
His voice isn't recognizable either. I was expecting like, hey, it's me, Johnny Leguizamo.
It kind of recalls to me when he played Clown in Spawn.
Oh God!
And you're like, that was John Leguizamo, and it's like, yeah, that was John Leguizamo, and he gives a performance.
That guy's a lunatic, man. He'll do whatever.
The Pest will do that movie, man.
Yeah.
Pest Vargas will do that movie. Yeah. There's a movie to go back and rewatch. Not really. The Pest.
I've never seen it.
You never seen The Pest? John Leguizamo's magnum opus. It's one of the most obnoxious films ever made. He's a Miami Bugs Bunny-esque con man who ends up kidnapped by noted monster Jeffrey Jones to his island where he hunts people for sport, and he's trying to get people of every race because he's a Nazi. Jeffrey Jones is, and his son are. So it's the greatest game with goofy ass John Leguizamo running around and prancing, be like, oh, woo, 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 and he's just doing impressions and everything. You got to see it to believe it. I watched it way too much as a kid. It is one of the most obnoxious, headache-inducing movies of all time.
I will never watch this. Let's talk about something that's great, like Mondo.
Like Mondo, yeah. Let's get away from the Pest and go to Mondo.
So he's trying to find other Mandalorians.
He's got the child, baby Yoda, with
Grogu
him now.
is his name.
Yes, as we find out. Or my favorite delivery of that is when Pedro Pascal is trying it out, and he's like, Grogu. Grogu. and there's a great scene later, and I don't know how to interpret it other than like he's having a cool dad moment when he gets Grogu to move something with his force powers.
Great job, kid. He's
like, Tank Ferrick. It's almost like he's saying, "God damn." That's good.
That is kind of what he's saying. Yeah.
Tank Ferrick.
Yeah, I love that. That's become a meme now. Everyone's like, Tank Ferrick.
Yeah. It's the new. What's the other Star Wars curse word? Achuta.
Oh yeah.
Or like Bantha Poodoo.
Yeah. Or Achuta. That's the one you always hear.
Yeah.
And there's scruffy looking nerf herder.
Who's scruffy looking?
Yeah. So we're tracking down other Mandalorians and whatever.
Looking
I can't
for
even remember
Jedi.
what happens in the first episode. What happens in the first episode?
So-
he leaves John Leguizamo to die.
Yeah, he breaks up that Gamorrean guard brawl out, and he stabs a guy too. It's pretty cool.
Does he though? We'll get to this. This is one of my criticisms later.
No, he throws that knife and it goes into that devil man.
Yeah, but does he though? Does there blood?
No.
Does anyone like? Ugh! It's
Yeah.
just like it happens and then it's over. Anyway.
So he goes to Mos Pelgo. He goes back to Tatooine.
Oh yeah, he goes to Tatooine.
That's
It's the
Tatooine.
episode with Timothy Oliphant.
Yes, with Timothy Oliphant. He goes back to Tatooine.
They find the sand dragon. It's a
And,
great episode.
And he goes back. It's a great first episode,
Yes.
too. It's a great way to start things off. He goes back and runs into Amy Sedaris again and gives her the baby so that it's not something he has to carry
He's like,
around.
here, there's people like me around here. And she goes, yeah, there's one around Mos Pelgo. Where's Mos Pelgo? She's like, it's somewhere around here.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It does exist. And it has a nice little population that
of 12 or something.
Yeah, and they're all scared because there's a crate dragon. So we get to see a crate dragon. It's like
eats
Jaws
their-
in the sand.
It eats their banthas.
Yeah,
Or
which is
whatever.
kind of great. It jawses its banthas.
Yeah.
But he's like, there's a Mando out there. Well, a guy with Mandalorian armor comes up, and this is a great scene. He sits down. It's kind of, speaking of Quentin Tarantino, it kind of reminds me of the scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where Timothy Olyphant's doing the episode with
Leo DiCaprio,
and he
yeah.
comes in, he's like,
Oh yeah.
I always say, hey, Mendo, you want to get a thing of mezcal? And he gets down and pours him a drink, and he takes that helmet off,
Oh yeah.
and you don't see the look on Pedro Pascal's
But you
face.
can imagine it's like,
no, I imagine it's like furious.
That's
like,
what I mean,
you
like,
better
it starts
put
off like
that
this, and he goes like-
fucking helmet back on. Stolen valor.
and then
again.
then you realize he's just a religious zealot. That's
Yeah,
why he thinks
that's-
that.
it's
He's
just
been
like-
brainwashed his whole life.
he looks at it and it's yeah, it's heathening intensifies.
Yeah.
And they have a moment where
I think it's worth pointing
Cobb
out.
Vanth, who is is played by Timothy Oliphant, the eternal sheriff.
Who is a character that exists in other
Yes.
mediums as well. It's
showed up in the
as well.
books.
Yeah.
Showed up as a main character in one of the books.
Yeah. But he's it's worth pointing out too, our Mandalorian, Din Djarin, looks quite sleek and dapper. Timothy Oliphant looks real rough.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
because the moment he walks in, you're like, that's Boba Fett's armor.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
Boba Fett's armor.
Some people couldn't pick it up because like it's quite dusty and hard to see.
Well,
which
we're
is
also
juxtaposed with later,
huge nerds, so it's like
which is juxtaposed with its later, where this ancient old armor is polished to brand new condition somehow, but it doesn't matter. But
and he's like, let's go. I'm gonna gun you. It's funny because his character in Justified is Raylan Givens, and Raylan Givens could be a Star Wars name.
yeah, good.
But so
They walk outside and they're gonna have a dust off, which by the way, the Mandalorian would just be like, "All right, you go first." Like, shoots him in his
or
back.
he would just. There's one thing I kind of don't like, and everyone's kind of noticed it is the what is it? The flying sparrows or whatever, the little thing.
Yeah.
He for how like this is very important. He uses it a lot.
Very sparingly.
Yeah. He's like. He's just shooting those little things off anytime he can.
Yeah.
He's got reloads on that.
Yeah,
it's
or
like
it probably costs him like $100 every time he's got to get a new pack
Yeah.
to put it on the arm. But
to be oiled.
yeah, we think they're gonna fight, and then the dragon comes and eats a thing, and they're like, maybe we can talk about this later.
We get one little thing that I really liked, which is like the night of the Empire falling.
Yeah, we
That
see-
was dope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And everyone is just like watching. Everyone's like watching Space CNN, like, and the Emperor's dead. And they're like, "Yeah, it's over. Play the." And then like
immediately a coup happens.
The old boss, same as the new boss, same as the old boss, shows up, and it's just like, yeah, we're just gonna start slaughtering people.
Which felt a little too timely.
Well-
Like, what if the Empire didn't fall? Tatooine's outside of the Empire anyway, for the most part. So,
Well,
like,
it's also like too timely, but it's like that's definitely happened where it's like, oh, the dictator was taken over,
Oh,
and
man.
immediately somebody was like, dictator's gone. All right, let's take over.
Yeah.
And so like a mining guild comes in and starts shooting everybody, but then he blows them up.
By the way, I know it's just a TV show. This is this should be on an episode of one of our bonuses of movie cliches we love /hate. I hate like we're taking over this town, so and they just kill everybody.
Just kill everybody.
You need the people there still.
Yeah, they massacred that bar.
Like,
and
like,
it's
'cause
like
if that was really happened, there would be no one in the town left because they'd all be at the bar watching the game / Empire fall or whatever.
watching the wall fall, and everyone's like,
Timothy
I've been looking for freedom.
Yeah, so they'd all be dead. I feel like it's just a way of telling us these are bad guys. And
Yeah.
you know they're bad
They had
guys. They're
pretty
all
cool-
dressed in a uniform.
They had pretty cool helmets and everything,
Yeah.
but they're not a problem really.
Timothy Oliphant, he skeezes out of there and he steals like a bag of crystals and he meets some Jawas and then he gets the Boba Fett armor.
Which we saw that Boba Fett armor in the first season.
Oh, we did?
It was on the Sandcrawler.
Oh,
When he's trying to get his armor back, or not, he tried to get his weapons back and everything. He's like, "Give me all that stuff back."
Yeah.
In which we find, well, I better not
That's
say
cool.
that.
So that means it happened recently. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
Yeah, it happened within because we don't. I mean, timeline between season 1 season 2 has to be like a month maybe
Or
or,
maybe
a
a
few
few,
weeks.
Here's one other thing that's a little weird. I don't know if it's a criticism, but apparently all it takes to get these guys out of your town is one man to shoot a couple of them. Because he just shows up with a gun. Pew, pew, pew.
These men are cowards, dude.
And like, was he always a badass? Or did he
Yes.
just? Okay.
I mean, you have to imagine he's got the skills, he's got the talent, he can pull off being sheriff.
okay. Fair
It's
enough.
just having Beskar
'Cause it kind
armor
of-
certainly helps.
It
Yeah.
kind of felt like all he did was like shoot a few of them, and then they're just like, "We gotta leave."
Yeah.
And then he blows them up. There's something anticlimactic about that missile because all he does is this. And then he leans forward slightly and it launches. Like I was expecting something more dynamic, like he takes off to the skies and something, but no, he just blows them up.
No, that's fine.
I mean, like, but
it's
it's
made
fine
to be funny,
but it's the way he does it. And I'm like,
Right.
that was an opportunity to what's the term? Fire all your bullets. Do something
Yeah.
cool instead of just being like, just have him launch.
well, it's also like this guy probably doesn't know how the whole armor works. I mean, he knows. I mean, it must be pretty.
but he can use the missile launcher.
Yeah, I'm about to say it must be still pretty usable,
Yeah.
all things considered. So there's also something I really like, and it is opening up the world of Star Wars. Is that Armando here can quote unquote speak Tusken?
Yeah.
And we see that Tusken.
It's lots of like.
But it's also
like lots of
signed.
that.
It's also ASL because I heard that on set, one of the actors who was playing one of the Tusken Raiders was deaf and used ASL, and so he was using actual ASL signs to be able to do that. And so it's like whatever the Tusken Raiders are, they cannot vocalize in a way that produces an actual language, so they have to use sign. And they have a culture. They
Well,
are
they use
very much
sign
stand-ins.
with aggressive growling.
Yes, because they are also very aggressive. Because this is the most of a Western we get. Literally, we got the cowboy
And the Indians
sheriff.
coming
We've got
together.
literally the local native tribe they don't get along with, that everyone's scared of. I ain't drinking that thing. I wouldn't want to drink it either. It looked kind of scary looking, but it's like I ain't doing that. But they come together to fight the greater force, which is a giant dragon.
Speaking of the greater force, before we team up, we'll move on to another episode here in just a second. But like, they try to lure it out with a bantha, and they tie it to a
It
post.
eats that
The
guy.
dragon eats the dude because, of course, it did. You already captured his next meal.
Yeah.
Why would he eat the meal? He's just gonna eat you and then save that for a snack.
T-Rex
I can't
doesn't
claim
want to be
credit.
fed. He wants to hunt.
I can't claim credit for that. I watched Grace Randolph say that in her review, and I was like, makes perfect sense. Like, and I think maybe this is why they're not good at hunting this thing. But
they
got to get the whole town together.
Right. They got to get the whole
be
town together. Everybody's got to shake hands, work out their differences, and be like, we have to fight for the greater good to stop something that's causing mutual trouble. This is as old as time. I mean, usually it's like the banditos or a group of bandits or brigands that come into town, and it's like we have to work with the other town or with the native population to fight them back.
I always felt that, like, as well, like, Mondo doesn't seem to be that concerned with getting money anymore.
No,
Yeah.
Like, you
no,
gotta pay
he's
me.
not,
And
he's
then now
not
he's just
bounty
like,
hunting
I'll do
anymore.
it.
Well, he's got a goal now.
Yeah,
Like,
he's on the mission quest.
He's on his quest. Like, so he's not going to be, which I think is kind of the point you're getting at. He's not going to be as cold and ruthless as he used to be. He's warming up.
Yeah.
He's got to be a heroic character.
And he was
for
never
the
that
audience.
cold and ruthless to begin with, like I say. He's pretty noble, all things considered.
He's noble for all things considered, but in that first episode, I mean, he's ganking people. He
they're
lets
ruthless.
that door cut that guy in half.
yeah,
and
but they're
he's like,
ruthless murderers.
I have to imagine he's like, cool. Neat.
Anyway.
So
They win.
They win, but there's some really great body horror and everything. Like the
Oh, it vomits acid on
Yep.
them. Yeah, that was pretty
that's
cool.
pretty dope. There's a great line that's kind of foretelling where it's like, oh, I forgot what it is, but he mentioned something about a Sarlacc
Lightsaber.
pit.
Oh yeah.
He mentioned something like, where do you find a Sarlacc pit? And it's like only when it's still there if it's not been eaten. And so it's like
They imply that the dragon killed the Sarlacc pit.
Right.
What does the Sarlacc look like? Is it a big bug?
yeah, I imagine it's something like an antlion.
But like the Sarlacc pit is just like a big open mouth that
Yeah.
you fall into.
Yeah.
So what does an antlion look like? It doesn't matter. We don't need to know. It's a
We don't
giant
need
pit
to
of teeth.
know. Well, it's kind of like what does the monster? What does the monster in the sewer on the Death Star look like? you
Right.
know? Like for all we saw, it's a weird eye that goes
Vaguely-
it goes down.
Vaguely Lucasy is what it looks like.
So that's a fun first episode. Just good old cowboy shenanigans, good old Western stuff. They're flying around with the jetpacks. Mando gets eaten and blows it up from the inside.
Yeah.
And everybody gets what they want.
And we see Boba Fett at the end of it,
Yeah, that last frame, man.
who I thought was always going to be a clone trooper. I thought it was going to be Colonel Cody or something who would survive.
because they were just kind of like, can't be Boba Fett. And it's like, oh, but of course it's going to be Tamara Morrison because they're all Tamara Morrison anyway.
It feels good to have him back, and I'll get to my mixed feelings on Boba Fett returning in a second, because it's going to get to a point where we're going to get real picky and choosy with what we do with Star Wars. But next episode, it's amazing how we go from a first episode that I really liked to a second episode where I'm like, what are we doing?
yeah. So
Why?
it's the Frog Lady episode.
Yeah. I don't hate it as an idea,
She's a great character.
At what point does it? She it might be the one that sells it when she talks to the Mandalorian using Richard Ayoade's voice from the robot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like,
And
but
also, it's the first time you feel any kind of like,
compassion,
you feel
and
less.
also Baby Yoda's a murderer.
Yeah, where you feel less compassion for Baby Yoda because he's just eating these extinct animals, and you're like, stop it, boy, don't put it down.
And
put it down.
people are all like making so many excuses, and they were like, "Oh, calm down, it's not real." I'm like, okay, if we're gonna criticize the end of Man of Steel for buildings coming down where no one's really inside them and it's all a movie,
What a
I get to
twist.
criticize this.
What a twist. Anyway,
I don't hate the episode.
I don't hate the
It's
episode
charming.
either.
Dave Filoni cameos as one of the X-Wing pilots. It's
He's
all right.
been doing that.
Yeah.
He pops up. Those ice spiders did creep me out a lot.
Those
Those
were
were-
intense.
Those
There's
were
some good
abandoned concepts from Empire.
Yes,
it was
they
gonna
were.
be where Luke goes. Instead, he gets attacked by the
He gets attacked by
snowman.
the
Wampa.
Wampa.
Yeah.
He gets attacked by a Wampa instead.
that's-
so
so
that
they
must have been in
replaced it
like
with that.
early Lee Brackett script stuff and everything. That was going to be a bunch of ice spiders.
So I think that was cool, and I thought the idea of like they had to hole up inside of the ship to shoot them away. That's cool. I just felt like the whole episode was just a
It's
little
filler.
It's filler. It's a little
filler.
pointless.
But it's just kind of to flesh out the world a little bit and give Mando something to do that's not just the quest.
Yeah.
But we're kind of invested in the quest now. Like we're
Yeah.
we're inquested.
Inquested.
And so but it's fun. It's fun enough.
Yeah.
He succeeds. I was worried that she'd get killed in some way and doesn't.
The episode that comes after it is
maybe.
oh no, it's not the. I was about to say it's the one where he meets the other Mandalorians. But
Yes. This one I've actually forgotten a lot of. I
Is
don't
it, or is it the
remember
one
how
where
a lot of
he-
it goes.
I think the third one's where he meets the others.
It's where he meets Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
and they fight the big ship.
Yeah,
Big-
that's where you
okay.
get some cool.
Wasn't there an episode where his whole ship got like underwater? Oh
That's
yeah,
in the same
it's the same
episode.
episode. It's the
Yeah.
beginning of the episode. Okay.
Yeah.
This episode was dope. The third episode was
I
great.
need to rewatch it because it's the one I don't remember as well.
So he shows up. He goes to the Mon Calamari. Is there people like me around here?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, yes, there is. Those guys can help you, and you shouldn't trust these guys immediately.
Yeah.
And they take him out, and they
You're
trick.
kind of hoping at first it's like maybe these guys won't be sneaky dicks.
And then
They're
they
sneaky
they
dicks.
try to get the baby eaten,
Yeah,
and
because they got a monster on board or something.
yeah, or a thing that they're feeding or whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like it's very charming watching Pedro Pascal's character kind of freak out when like the kid save the child. Like he's like he cares about that kid a lot now, and
Oh, yeah.
it's refreshing in a way because this movie could have been eventually like in the hands of like less talented people, they might just continue making the Mondo just a gruff, strong, silent, I don't no one who sees my face lives kind of thing.
Yeah, no, he's definitely much more emotive in this, and I think that's important because of how the last season ended.
Yeah, to his praise. And then so that happens, and then we meet the other Mandalorians, and we realize that they think he's weird when he says, like, this is the way, because she takes off the helmet, and he's like, what? He reads again or whatever.
Ethan.
Yeah. And they
Never show your face.
They tell him they say he's an abductee or a convert of some special sect of Mandalorian that only follow the old way or whatever.
Right.
Something like that? Is that right?
She's this like, their group is kind of this progressivist sort of, we're not y'all, you're a little heavy-handed right there. Like we're not all about that. Like, you're kind of part of this old archaic evangelical kind of.
He's a Nicola of the Westboro Baptist Church of Mandalorians. See, that's what he was raised in.
Not my Mandalorian, but Bo-Katan has her reasons because she's not necessarily clean either. We get an idea, and this is Katie Stackhoff, who voiced her in the Clone Wars cartoon.
Mm-hmm. Very lucky that they were able to use the same actress.
Yeah, because she's perfect in it.
A lot of
She's
people
got a
wanted
great look.
A lot of people wanted the same actress for Ahsoka, and I don't think that would have worked.
That would have worked.
Yeah,
but
we'll
this worked out. This ended up being perfect because Katie Stackhoff rules, and she can play a character like this believably.
Yeah, you can be a tough girl and not an asshole. Gina Carano.
You've got. Speaking of people in wrestling, her other is Shotzi Blackheart.
Yeah, she's from WWE.
The other, her other female Mandalorian warrior.
Yes,
Yeah.
I got to find out who it is. It's not Shotzi Blackheart. It's because I've started rewatching wrestling a lot.
I wonder who the dude is then.
I
Just
think
a
it's
man?
a stunt guy.
That is actually the new lead singer for the Foo Fighters.
Oh, nice. It'd be funny if it was Dave Grohl in the show. Just taking off, like, "What's up,
He
guys?"
should have been playing one of the devils then, because he plays the devil in
Pick a Destiny.
Pick a Destiny.
Well, speaking of cameos, I do love that going back to season 1 that Jason Sudeikis shows up as a stormtrooper in season 1.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What, do you want to go tell the moth? What are you, crazy? He'll kill us. Like, he doesn't care about us. We are literally expendable.
But then, like, everybody
such a
instantly
great-
hates him because he punches Baby Yoda.
Hey, shut up, kid.
Shut up, kid. You'll have to give me a second here.
Yeah.
Because it's killing me that I don't remember who it is. Oh my God, Wikipedia.
Just go to Google. Just like other female Mandalorians cast or whatever. Do we ever figure out what happens to the...
Mercedes Verando. It's Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks. Take my word for it. Sasha Banks is really cool.
Okay.
They just did their recent Royal Rumble and everything, so it's a good choice to get a wrestler in there that could to play a role like that. But
I like the Boba Fett kind of kicks the shit out of her.
well, also the other guy disappears because he doesn't show up later when
he was needed on another set.
yeah
Something
he
worked.
was needed. Yeah,
Just put a helmet on a random extra.
Yeah.
Sit him down and make him say nothing. Like,
Another-
just have him look intimidating.
Another thing that was fun was the Imperial captain in there is Titus Welliver, who's an actor I
Yes.
really enjoy.
Yeah, I remember.
It's Bosch from TV's Bosch, Michael Connolly's novels. I love that guy. And he bites the cyanide pill right there too.
So he really goes for it. He does the guy from Skyfall, Tiago Rodriguez or whatever. Yeah. I like that episode a lot. Bryce Dallas Howard did it. It had some cool action and stuff. We get mention of the dark saber. Where's the dark saber and stuff. Like, it's a lot of cool, like I said, lore building. And I like at the end, little mini character arc in an episode. She gives him a "this is the way." It was very nice. I appreciated that.
And with you as well.
Yeah, it might as well be that.
Our next episode after that is
The Jedi, isn't it?
It is. Oh no, it's the Siege. It's the Carl Weathers episode.
I can't remember that episode.
That is the one where they go to the. That's the one where him, the late Cara Dune, and
the
Greef
weird
Karga,
and the blue man from the first
and,
episode.
Will Sasso?
Yeah, I
no,
think so.
is it Will Sasso? It's one of the.
It might be
Yeah,
the idiot criminal he captures in the very first episode of the series.
He's now redeemed, and he's like, "You're going along with us."
But he
And
doesn't want to.
They're back on Navarro, I think, and he's like,
Yeah.
"There's a an outpost we got to take. This one I also don't remember much of except the ending, because it's mostly just like they're solid snaking. They're just kind of like entrance.
We get a cool thing where like the speeder troopers jump off the
that's right.
thing
you
and,
get a bit of
follow
a
them.
you get a really cool like almost like a train heist fight sort of deal.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. That'd be a good level in a video game.
I don't know if I would call it a filler episode. I just don't think it's just a solid, fine episode.
Well,
or
the
whatever.
big thing that comes about is they find the tanks with whatever's in there.
Yeah.
And I don't think that gets answered.
And they look
Does that
up.
not
They
get
look up
answered?
like who's cloning. They get the doctor.
Yeah,
the
Dr.
good
Pershing,
doctor or whatever,
who also disappears from the series
Yeah.
entirely. But
and they're trying to figure out what do they
Dr.
want with
Pershing.
Grogu and stuff. Like all those things. Let's get to the one I want to talk about. which
yeah,
is
let's get to the
Jedi.
one that is gonna ring the Jedi. Dave Filoni's the Jedi. This episode kicks so much ass.
Oh, it was amazing.
I thought it was okay.
All right, let's talk about. So he goes. Mando. He finally is like unique. Well,
He goes to a generic planet with one
Bo-Katan is the
town.
one that
again.
says Bo-Katan in the episode before the last
Yeah, she
says
says-
you need to go find Ahsoka Tano, and that's when everyone's like, oh, Ahsoka Tano. And so he goes to a foggy, haunted-looking forest, and there's a town run by an evil
Shogun
magistrate sort of thing. And
Michael Biehn is
that's
there.
great. Love Michael Biehn.
He looked so familiar. And I was like, who is that? He looked so familiar. I was like, oh, it's Kyle Reese from the Terminator
it's just
movie.
now he kind of looks. He's a funny looking guy now, and he's got a high pitched voice and everything. So he's kind of like her gunslinger, and they rule with an iron fist. But Ahsoka Tano has been showing up and causing trouble and being like, she's kind of speaking of. I'm going back to Miyazaki. She's kind of Princess Mononoke-ing a little bit. Yeah. Like this lady is Lady
this
Eboshi.
whole episode is full of like samurai mythos stuff.
And so it's kind of like she's
a
the
Jedi.
wild woman from the past that wants to stop your evil modern reign, and she's like silly wolf girl. Wait, I mean Jedi. Like it's that sort of deal.
Yeah.
And so Mando takes the challenge and is like, I'll go bounty her.
He's there to find her, and they're like, if you kill her, we'll give you this whole spear of Beskar.
And
he's like,
and
cool. Will you tell me where she is?
He might as well be drooling underneath that helmet. He's like, Spear of Beskar, you say? Yeah. Oh, well, that changes things.
I would just turn that into more plates and just cover my whole body in Beskar. like
Is that a Spear of Beskar in your armor, or are you just pleased to see a Spear of Beskar?
I'd be like the Silver Surfer of Beskar.
You'd be unkillable.
Yeah, I would be unkillable. You're
Because
right.
as we find out in this episode, a lightsaber cannot pierce Beskar.
Yeah.
Nothing can, mostly. So he goes and seeks her out and is like, I ain't going to kill you.
They have a cool fight first, though.
They have a cool fight,
Kind of.
but then he's like, wait, Ahsoka Tano, I know who you are. I'm here from Bo-Katan. I want you to train my boy. And she's like, too old to begin the training.
Yeah, I'm good. It might as well have been that. But he's too old to begin the training.
It's like, what do you mean? He's like that. He's 50.
He's 50 years old.
But this
or
is
whatever.
where we get Grogu. This is where we finally get his name because she's able to speak. She's able to speak with him through his mind and be like, his name is Grogu, and everyone, and the whole audience is like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Oh, like, I've already committed to baby. I knitted it on my pillow already.
Babby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
I think the intimate stuff between her and Grogu and the Mandalorian, all the non-fighty stuff, is actually better than all the fighty stuff.
Yes, I agree. But the final battle in the episode is really good.
Is it?
It's very.
dope.
Is it?
It's dope.
We'll get to that in a second.
It was very well choreographed, and it recalled Kill Bill to me.
Was it
in a big-
choreographed well? We'll get to the action in a second.
Yeah.
But the time where she talks about like how he had to survive by hiding his powers, and he's very scared, and the only one he might do it for is you because he likes you very much. And like you said, when he gets him to do it, he's like, "Dang, Ferric!" I'm like, it's a breath of fresh air from a show that could feel kind of gray and dull and dark at times. Not dull, but like
Because now you've started building this relationship. You've started really kind of being like, now there's. But she's like, I'm not training.
And we get backstory
training
because
him.
she's like, his emotions are unstable, and I've seen what those emotions can do to a fully powered Jedi Knight. Wink, wink, Darth Vader. Like
that was great. That was great. I feel like I know the audience gets it, but I would have been fine with a little like music note, like
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. In fact, I'll say that
she's like traumatized. She's like, the man who trained me, who was essentially like my friend for the very longest time, turned
Was the
into a mass
scourge of the
murderer.
empire, yeah.
And this little guy's lucky he got away, because that also led to some of my favorite little memes.
He's in the Jedi Temple behind the kid, like, oh God, no!
I gotta get out of here. And it's the one from Billy Madison, where it's just like, where it's like, hey Anakin, I thought you were pretty cool, and that's really sucky they didn't give you Jedi Master. And he's like, oh, thanks, Grogu, I remember that. And he wipes his name off the kill list, like Steve Buscemi.
But
I gotta get out of here.
speaking of music, I find it funny that we never take the time in this series, like whenever Grogu does something cool or mystical, to just have da na 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 na.
I think they're saving it. I think they're like,
For what? We've had a bunch of cool moments yet.
I think they want to keep the score very much in its own world, because I mean the soundtrack is fine, but mostly it's that doom 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 doom, and then you get the
Like I get that, like, but there's moments here, like Rogue One didn't use the original score a lot, but there's moments where it did that were appropriate, and I feel like this would help this feel more connected to what it is, which is Star Wars.
Luke, what did you think of this episode? Because this is kind of like,
Who cares what he thought?
this is kind of the episode that really
He likes a brown
things
paper
going.
bag.
Well, so a couple things. So first, to touch on the soundtrack thing, not to dive into the finale episode just yet, but that was probably, other than a big moment that we'll talk about later, one of my favorite things about the finale was the soundtrack of how that last 15 minutes of that episode went down. But back to the episode with Ahsoka, though, I thought it was dope. I really did. Seeing her show up on screen for the first time, like, I think
props to
Rosario Dawson.
Rosario Dawson, who a lot of people were kind of just sort of like, well, we'll see, and she nails it. I mean,
Yeah,
she really does.
Not to make it weird, she looks like, with air quotes,
she
looks
didn't have
great.
To, she looks great. She didn't have to do a lot with makeup. I mean, she already is a badass, and just kind of, and it's nice to see her doing something like this, and she's gonna get to keep it.
Exactly.
Yeah, like you're Ahsoka Tano. You're all in.
I mean, I feel like they just shot this in the style of what the Ahsoka show will be like. And that actually touches on something else I wanted to talk about, too. Not to divert off course too much, but I've heard they're going to use the Ahsoka show and use the whole world between worlds thing to, like, erase the sequel trilogy from existence. I don't know how true that is.
I don't think they're going to do
That sounds really dumb and really disrespectful to a bunch of people that worked on the series.
I think a lot of people who are talking about erasing the sequels is just kind of
The shitty
wishful-
element of the toxic
is
Star
wishful
Wars
thinking kind of
fandom
stuff.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we could get into a whole episode about what should we do with this plate and what can these Disney Plus shows do with it as
Right.
well.
That's what I was going to kind of wrap up with that
Right.
today.
That's good. So we'll get to that. All right. What about this fight between him about her and the magistrate?
This is a larger criticism on the whole for the show. I think the good thing about this show is nothing to do with the action, because a lot of the action is just kind of wide shots of people shooting.
Yeah.
Which is kind of boring.
It's Western fighting.
It's not like there's a way to make shooting cool, like John Wick or whatever. But like
do they also have an IG unit, or is it like one of those robots that was the robot from Rogue One?
No, it's a different robot. I think it's like something more like it's the K2 SOE looking robot. I think.
Right. It's the one from. It looks like the one from
Rogue One.
Yes, it looks like one from. I thought it was like HK-47 from KOTOR.
No, I don't think so.
It's not that, but I thought that what the robot looked like. They sieged this place pretty cool.
Yeah. I feel like the action in this show, like just watching people point and pretend shoot at each other, kind of gets a little boring.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that when we introduced lightsabers, the action would be like upscale a bunch. This show I feel like is so concerned with not.
And she slays those guys though at the first part.
She does, but it's shot in like a misty such way where like you never see a guy get cut in half.
But
and
it
she cuts him through a tree, but it's out of focus or something.
But it suggests the violence.
It works though.
I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they were talking about something where they're like, "You don't see anything happen at Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but you feel it."
I don't know if like.
And she's cutting those dudes up. There's some beheadings. Because she's a little wilder. She's a little less. She's a little more neutral.
I think I agree with the opening scene, but the actual fight with the magistrate feels a little toothless. I guess it's because
I guess it could be a little more, but it's also, I think that's the problem with Star Wars tech is that it's meant to be clean and not violent.
And when I say toothless, I don't mean I want her to cut an arm off and see blood. Like I'm saying, like when I watch a good lightsaber fight, and this is one thing that I like about some of the prequels. Attack of the Clones doesn't have good lightsaber fights, but like when they fight, Attack of the Clones doesn't. But Revenge of the Sith and Phantom Menace do.
Yeah.
Like that Darth Maul fight. Watch Obi-Wan fight Darth Maul again and be like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
like
it's a lot of fun.
and like it seems like starting at the prequel or the sequel trilogy and moving into Mando, these lightsaber fights are kind of boring and it's just chopping wood. And there's like, I want like after like, here's a good example. I've showed it to Luke and I know you've seen it. The season 1 or the episode 1 ending of The Witcher, when he just eats those guys' lunches. We know there are great fight scenes that are capable of being done on a TV budget, especially something with the budget of Mondo, that can be choreographed and be beautiful and fun to look at. This show hasn't done that yet, and I'm kind of waiting for this big action sequence that I'm like, I feel like the action that we get in the episode with Bo-Katan and stuff might be, and it's just kind of shooting at people again.
Yeah, but it's also like it's a lot rowdier because you're on a boat and everything.
And I feel like if we're gonna do like we have a Jedi, and I feel like for our first Jedi that we've seen in who is not part of a movie in the series, it's not the emotional stuff. I think is great. It genuinely moved me, and the action I'm like is fine. It's fine.
It's mostly there to serve like a nice little way for these two characters, for us to see that this magistrate knows how to throw down, and that Beskar ain't nothing to fuck with.
Yeah, and I wouldn't have minded seeing her win.
Yeah,
we kind of just it's implied.
Yeah,
but like
don't see what happens.
Have her like chop off her hand and like trip her or something at the end, because it implies
Star Wars is the most hand chopping and off in the franchise in the world.
Because it implies that she killed her. Like I don't need to see you like cut her head off or something.
Right. Yeah,
but
that's a little much.
But just like do a little roundabout and like stab her through the stomach and like it's done. You win.
Yeah. But she needs to keep her alive to find out where's your master. Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?
I got chills when that happened.
Oh yeah. Then cut the hand off or something,
and wiggle the head in front of it. Where's Grand? Start making it flat. Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn? Stop hitting yourself.
Look at me.
Look at me. Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah, but like you catch the Beskar in the air, and then you pick her up with the Force or whatever, and be like, "Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" Like it just feels like they didn't stick the landing.
That's fair.
For a lot of this, and I feel like the action is a little anemic, and I'm ready for some. You know what it feels like? It feels like there's no personality behind the fighting. It's very generic. Whereas if I show you a fight scene from John Wick, 300, Captain America Civil War.
The episode after this.
The episode after this.
Because that's what we're getting to is the episode after this when you get someone like Robert Rodriguez directing
like you get a style of a person. You know a Zack Snyder scene. You know a Russo brothers scene. You know like even like Tarantino's action scenes in a way have a feel like.
They're percussive.
Yeah, like that's what Star Wars needs. These action sequences need an imprint of a creative behind them, and Jon Favreau being the creative sort of head of these shows is great because it unifies the story, but action-wise it leaves a lot to be desired. And I've never looked at one of Favreau's movies and been like, the action is breathtaking.
Right.
Like I'm just kind of like,
well, he also does a bevy of different kinds of movies. He does comedies and everything else. And
I feel like it just that's I think that's the
I don't know
point
if there are any
I'm
fight scenes in Chef. But
there's the part where he beats the crap out of Oliver Platt's character.
But that's kind of this episode. You get that set up. He also kills Michael Biehn in a shootout,
which is really hilarious because he was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna get off my back," and of course he's gonna put it down, and he's gonna kill him like a bitch that he is.
Right? Because
one shot.
He thinks he's gonna get this shot off.
And by the way, he's covered in armor.
Yeah.
You have to be such a good shot to get the little sliver.
You
of
know
net.
about Beskar.
Yeah.
Like,
all right, let's move on to the next episode.
Let's move on to the tragedy.
I still like that episode.
I think
just to be fair.
I think it's up there in terms of one of the better episodes of the series.
This is the one.
Far.
This is the Rodriguez one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
This is the tragedy.
Yeah.
It is a tragedy. Mando goes back to.
She tells him to go if she doesn't want to train Grogu, but if he goes to this temple and puts him on the thing, it'll send a signal to the universe, and some other one will get him.
It's a little video gamey to start off. It's a little Sith Wayfinder.
I don't care about this,
but it's also magical, mystical stuff. Take him to the temple, and the Force will be vibes.
Contrary to popular belief, video games we didn't steal mysticism from video games. Video games stole mysticism from real life
because there are temples.
Yes, there are things that exist.
There were ziggurats, which had magical. So she's like, take him there. Well, he's not alone. This is when we see the Slave One
When that happened, I was like, "Oh my god, it is Boba Fett."
Yeah.
Like,
The Slave One comes flying in, and Boba Fett's not alone. He's with
Ming-Na,
Ming-Na's
the
character.
sharpshooter from the last
So
series.
that confirms that the person that shows up to what probably is the worst episode in the series so far is the one with the kid on Tatooine. Other than she's showing up because she's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's not the best episode of the series. But
No.
we confirmed that the guy walking up to her at the end
was Boba Fett.
is Boba Fett. And Tamara Morrison looking rough.
He looks great.
He looks great, but he's like, he sells it, man. He just comes down and he's just like,
I'm just a man trying to make my way in the universe. I think it's like his dad when he
Yeah.
said that from that terrible movie I don't like. You know,
you have something on mine. And as soon as he gets it back, he's like, oh, sweet. And
you're doing a Cockney accent.
yeah, well,
It's a bit more New Zealand.
it's a New Zealand accent. Oh, killer. Oh,
But
cool.
he just wants his armor back.
Yep.
And
Fair enough.
As much as so of course Grogu gets taken is the big thing that happens.
Right. Well,
and
we now get
the dangerous robots.
yes, we get the Dark Troopers.
Yeah.
Who look amazing. They are practical. Like when the camera gets close to them, you can see the plastic dust and everything on it. It looks awesome, and Moff Gideon is essentially back into play.
Yeah.
He's been there the whole time. He's the incredible Giancarlo Esposito, who
Yeah, we got a post credit with him or something like that through one of the episodes.
yes, where he's like, that's where we're going. So he's dicking around out there, and then we get the actual tragedy, which is a tragedy as the Razor Crest gets annihilated, and I wept. I didn't weep, but that
Oh, that's your tragedy, not Grogu.
Yeah,
getting
well,
kidnapped?
that's the tragedy. The tragedy is the Razor Crest
that's
gets
a cool ship.
destroyed.
I was gonna build a gunpla.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to build that Lego. It's always going to be there in our hearts.
Yeah.
But
He'll get a new one at the season 4, the big crossover event battle Marvel Endgame thing.
Yes.
He'll get a new one.
Yes.
They have a big battle against Giancarlo Esposito. They'll bring all the characters back together. I can already see it. I
and
see
John
you, Favreau.
Favreau and the Blue Meanie, Cowboy Curtis. It's the ultimate destiny.
Yeah.
But it is a tragedy for Mando because that's his home.
Yeah.
He's a man without a planet. He's a man without a thing. The only thing he has had is the Razor Crest. The only thing he has had is a way to escape.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And now it's gone. And Grogu's gone. It's an Empire Strikes Back situation.
now I got to ride around on Boba Fett's nicer ship.
Yeah, now I have to ride around on
The cool rotating,
coolest ship ever.
the weird rotating like cockpit that he has.
Did you like that he used the sonic bombs from
Yes, the seismic
Attack of the
charges.
Clones?
That was cool. Let's talk. I mean, I guess let's get to Boba Fett because
Yeah.
I had mixed feelings about this because I've always said it feels weirdly disrespectful sometimes to just be like, bring this character back, bring that character back. And you could say, well, George Lucas didn't know what he had. But after a while, I do get kind of worried that Star Wars is just going to devolve into a bunch of fan fiction where we just be like, and then this happened, and then Groot shows up, and then like it's gonna be that.
But
and I'm
and
very
to play a devil's advocate
Yeah.
a little bit, that is also kind of what the extended universe was. Is
That's
a
true.
giant, almost 25-year run of fan fiction.
But to be fair, that's why it's a book.
Right.
Because George Lucas is like, I don't want to do that in the books, but I guess I'll create a corner over here where people can do whatever they want and they can read these books, and I have no problem with it.
Right.
Because George Lucas was an artist. He wasn't about making corporate films. And I think that's sort of...
He just happened to make one of the biggest corporate films of all time, but that was an accident. Mostly.
yeah. Well,
It
he
just-
built an entire industry around himself.
He
in a way.
created Star Wars at a time when the world needed Star Wars and was like, hey, this works.
And it felt kind of... I'm going to get to the good shit because obviously I like the fact that he comes back and he's just a wrecking ball.
Yeah, because if you want your action, you bring in Robert Rodriguez and you can feel the Robert Rodriguez in it.
Yes.
The shootouts are great.
It's so
And
much
and we
better
haven't-
than just them running down hallways,
No, yeah.
shooting it nonsense.
You're in a deserty setting with gunslinging, and you're
He did
immediately
this for
back
the
in the
Desperado
Desperados.
movies. Yeah.
Yeah, you're immediately back in the El Mariachi trilogy.
Or Sin City has some cool shootouts.
Yep.
Like, I mean,
Because this is the first time he's
Shark
done
Boy
a
and
movie.
Lava Girl.
But I mean, he's mostly just been doing these movies for his kids, like Spy Kids, Shark
Yeah.
Girl, and Lava Boy.
Literally. He does
this
all the
new
visual
one,
effects and everything.
with Pedro Pascal. I forgot what it's called. It looks like Sky High, but it's not Sky High.
Yeah.
It's called We Could Be Heroes.
Yeah. Yeah,
but we
Sarah
haven't
just
seen
watched
an R-rated or close to R-rated good old Robert Rodriguez action movie in a damn long time since Machete.
He did like Dusk Till Dawn and stuff, didn't he? Did he do those?
But he only did From Dusk Till Dawn.
He did the first one.
All the other ones are just like
direct to
DVD
sequels.
or direct to VHS sequels.
Yeah,
but
I think that was what I was getting at with the Ahsoka thing. It's like it needs a guy who has a stamp and can make something interesting. It's fucking cool that we have Robert Rodriguez did a Star Wars thing and it's good and we all like it.
Mm-hmm. And Fennec Shan. Fennec is the name of Min-Na Wen's character. What do you think of this? This is some interesting stuff right here. What do you think of the thing about Jango Fett being a foundling? That we're kind of reversing the canon of we're kind of reversing the canon of Boba Fett as this he just stole some armor, and we're now kind of making him a.
Well, what was the canon around Jango Fett? What did it used to be?
I don't remember. Just he was a bounty hunter. He was a bounty hunter who ended up being the one that was the ideal clone, and then his son Boba Fett was a clone
Din
of
Djarin
him.
is a bounty hunter, so I guess it's fine that he's a foundling.
But it's just the Fetts have always been kind of like they're not real Mandalorians. They just got this armor and but now it's like no. Jango was a foundling. This connects. So now Boba Fett has this. He's no longer, because I think you and I were like a little miffed about this, is the cleaning up of Boba Fett from being a cowardly scumbag to now being a bit of an anti-hero.
Well, here's the thing: if we were ever going to bring Boba Fett back, I know I've joked about it, but I obviously wouldn't say we should bring him back and make him be a fucking joke, because that's going to piss everyone off.
Right.
But I don't want to sanitize him and be like, he's just like Din Djarin. He's just a nice guy who
Just trying to
occasionally
make my
kills
way
people
for the
for money.
galaxy.
Like I want him to be, a member of the hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah.
Like I want him to be, at the very least, a very gray anti-hero, which our Mandalorian is not.
Right.
Like he is very much a neutral good, if we're going to use D&D terms.
Right. And
He's almost lawful good at this point. But
he's almost lawful
But he
good.
doesn't have he has a code, but he breaks the code.
And for
which is a
someone like
signifier.
Bo-Katan, looking at him, it is like, yeah, he is lawful good, this crazy paladin man. But Boba Fett has always been neutral evil.
Yeah.
Until now, where he's just more of like chaotic neutral.
True neutral, maybe?
Well, not
Like-
totally true neutral, because he cares about what he wants.
Yeah, but chaotic neutral means you're like a madman and there's no governing force over you, kind of thing. You don't. The life is chaos and there is
Or
no.
he's
destiny.
chaotic good at this point, because he's like, he has a code and he doesn't kill innocent people anymore.
Does he?
I don't know.
Did we hear him say that? If he did say that, I'm kind of disappointed. But he's a
I
bounty
think it's
hunter.
just how they want us to see him.
Yeah, but he's a bounty hunter, so he never kills innocent people. In his
True.
mind, he's hunting down criminals.
But then again, he's also does it
But
with
usually for
extreme
other criminals.
prejudice, because no disintegrations, and he's like, fine,
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it when you're not
I'll
looking.
do what I want. Well, the thing about it's all about how we want to view Boba Fett now.
Yeah.
Because now he's not that character anymore. He's scarred. He has, as we know at the end of this series, he has a purpose, which is a little more nefarious than
Yeah,
we thought.
I forgot about the whole.
where this is going.
Well, I didn't see that post-credit scene because apparently there was a post-credit thing.
Oh yeah.
Can I pause it and watch it just real quick?
Yes, please. Let's do it. Essentially, then it says Book 3, the Book of Boba Fett.
Okay. So let me.
So we'll talk about that at the very end. All right.
So I feel like we leave where Boba Fett is in such a way that we can decide whatever we want. In a way, obviously, like he's dipping his toe back into the criminal underworld. But if we're gonna do that, like I want them to like do it. Like,
And we'll talk about that when we get to the last episode.
let's get to the next episode.
Let's get to the
which
next
is,
episode. So we know that for some reason at the end of this, we lose the Razor Crest. He's got to take Slave One back to Navarro, and he comes to Cara Dune, and who's now the sheriff, who's now sheriffing and everything. She's got like a little imprint and everything on there, and she's like, I need to get Miggs. I need to get Miggs Mayfield.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get Bill Burr, baby.
Which is what this episode, and I'm not just saying this because I like Bill Burr or whatever. It's the popular meme now, but like I genuinely thought this was one of my favorite episodes.
The Believer.
Yeah, not even because it's. I'm interested about like, what that title implies, like who is the believer or whatever. But like, I genuinely liked the fact that we get like to sit and stew with a character for a little bit, and I feel like we don't always get the chance to do that with this show, especially with such a silent character like Mondo.
And him and Bill Burr's character bounce off each other so well this is a really good character episode, and Bill Burr kind of carries it in a lot of ways, but so does Pedro Pascal, because they're going undercover. Miggs is a former Imperial officer, so he's like, he breaks him out from prison yard, taking us back to when him and his crew got taken down in the last season. So of all the characters to bring back, we're bringing back Miggs.
Feels right.
Which is great. That means they're doing more of this character.
I don't really want to see Clancy Brown's character again because he feels very one note.
They're just scary psychopaths. But Miggs is not.
He strikes me more as a professional criminal.
Yeah. And so he springs this professional criminal with the help of Cara Dune, and they're like, we're going to go to this outpost, and I need to get the codes to be able to find out where Gideon is going. I think that's kind of what it is. So we got an idea, and the rest is just we are in the lion's den with Imperial officers, and we get an idea of like how they talk. Like this, because technically the Empire is gone. These are remnant forces. I'm not going to go off.
I'm always curious, like, who these people are answering. I guess it's Moff Gideon, but...
Well, and there might be answering to various governors and Moffs and everything like that who are still part of these resistance groups. Grand Admiral Thrawn is out there somewhere. I almost want to tangent a little bit because I'm rewatching...
Save it for the end.
Okay.
We'll have a whole tangent section at the end.
All right. I'll come back to this.
Because instead of doing recommended, we're just going to talk about the slew of Star Wars stuff coming up.
So Miggs is kind of like... He is doing a Bill Burr performance. He does like a Type 5 where he's just like, none of this matters. It's all nonsense. You know, the Empire's one thing. The Rebels are another thing. They all paid a big war and everything. You know, you end up, all that matters is being the little guy, making it a little guy. You know, you got to do what you can. So he's kind of has a bit of a Bill Burr like comedy bit where he's like, I don't trust any side. You know, like it's all nonsense.
Yeah.
And mostly he's just annoying.
Slightly.
Yeah, because he's just like, I don't really care about your political beliefs. I just want to get my boy back. And then he runs into they go to the canteen where he's like, I got to get in that face thing. I got to see through the eyes.
Let's talk about the face thing for a second because it's kind of a plot hole. Can anybody just put their face up there? And as long as it's a face, you get it's top secret documents.
That's a little bit. I thought they were going to do something else with that. But a lot of people had problems with the idea that he removes his helmet. I didn't. I think that's a character moment.
Of course he would.
He's trying to save Grogu.
Yeah, he would do whatever.
There's something that means more to him than himself and his own faith now.
He's neutral good.
Yeah.
He has a code, but he will break it.
Yeah, and he will break it for the greater good in his mind, which is saving Grogu. You get Miggs meeting with his former commandant, who's just this actor.
I can't remember his name, but he's real ratty.
This actor they chose is a real slime ball. Good for him. He plays it, and he's just like...
He strikes me as greasier Rhys Ifans.
Yeah. And kind of he's older a little bit, though. And he's just like... He's a believer, because he's just like, yeah, we wiped him out good. Because he's apparently was part of some... Miggs was part of some...
Operation Cinder.
Yes, which is our new thing, which is after the death of the Emperor, Operation Cinder was a contingency plan that was essentially to scorched earth annihilate anybody who was connected with the Rebel Alliance or anybody who was not. It was because one of the things was like the destruction of Endor was one of them, like things to that nature. There's all these different atrocities that took place as part of Operation Cinder.
And it implies that it involved kind of like taking a bunch of new Imperial recruits and setting them up in a way that they were all going to die.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And also there's a little bit of like war crime vibe, a little bit of My Lai, kind of like we went into villages and just started killing people and it was fine. Because it's like they earned it, they deserved it, and Miggs.
Well, the reason I took away from it was that he's kind of he's a fascist, and he goes, people want freedom until they don't want freedom, or whatever. So he's kind of like, this is what I appreciated. Who directed this episode? Was it Taika Waititi?
No, Taika didn't do this one. This was
Rick
Famuyiwa.
Yes, it is Rick Famuyiwa. So he did. It feels fitting that he did this episode because he has that very interesting point of view. Because when I was watching that scene, all I was thinking of is like everyone thinks they want freedom, but what they really want is they want order. He almost practically went like they just want the trains to run on time, man.
Yeah.
Like
it's almost like law and order. Like he's saying that we need law and we need order, and he's grinning the whole time. But this is the side of the Empire that is under there because they're kind of buddying around with some of these other Imperial troops, and they're just like talking about whatever, and like they're like, hey man, it's y'all real because they bring in those explosives.
They kill those natives that are
Yeah.
just fighting for their land.
and they're like
Poor guys.
and they're like, man, you did great. That was awesome. They all cheer for him and everything. It's like, oh yeah, these are just people. And then you sit down with one of the commandants, and he's like,
It's the power structure that turns these people into like
uses them.
weapons or war machines or whatever.
And this propaganda of, you are superior.
Bill Burr gets a nice brief little monologue where he's like, I'm thinking about Operation Cinder and all those soldiers that we led to their deaths. And he goes, like, you said it was good for the galaxy. It's good for the Empire. Was it good for them? Did it help them out? Did they get to go home? He's like, no. And then the guy just kind of like, to make an omelet, you got to break a few eggs. He said something dismissive like that.
And he just kind of laughs, and
he's
Miggs
like,
laughs.
and he goes like, for the Empire or whatever. And then Miggs just kind of smiles and he goes, no. And just like I have to shoot him.
Yeah.
And poor Pedro Pascal is like, please don't.
Please don't do it. Please don't do it. There's been an ongoing thing with that, like a little meme I've seen popped up where it says like Mayfield's character gets
more character arc than Finn did in 3 movies.
And I'm like, you can't compare it. It's for one thing, like
he doesn't get a character arc. He just gets a second to talk about his own history.
Yeah, and
you would say that about anyone who had that amount of time. To talk about whatever.
And this is a character who has been traumatized by. They're both characters who were part of the Empire or a version of the Empire, doing war crimes. It's a different sort of scenario.
And I don't know if I agree with that. They're both basically. Bill Burr starts off being a criminal.
Yeah.
Then, and we don't get hardly any lines from him. We get that gun out of my face, man. We get that, but we don't get like a backstory for him, really. He said, I was an Imperial sharpshooter. And he goes, I'm not a stormtrooper, you dumbass.
Yeah.
And then this episode.
He's almost an opposite to Cara Dune, who's like not a regular rebel officer. She's a shock trooper. She's a special forces. He's a special forces.
And he finally gets a moment to sit down and talk about what he thinks about the Empire and what it did to him and stuff. Finn gets the same thing.
Yeah.
He
gets to challenge the person who abused him and defeat them in combat.
Over the course of The Force
Awakens, whether you like how it's played out, rebel scum.
Over the course of it's just The Force Awakens by itself, he ends up in the same place he does. So I don't agree with the meme. I get why they're saying it. In 5 minutes, he does as much as Finn did in a movie. Yeah, that's good writing.
And he does something very satisfying, which is he kills a fascist. Yeah, he looks in the face of fascism and he says the only thing you can do, and he blows him away. He's like, this man was a monster, and there are greater monsters out there.
It's a nice juxtaposition where it's like, you need to look out for yourself. But he breaks his own little thing he said because he enacts some sense of karmic justice.
Yeah.
Because he believes this man has it coming. And while it's not my job to give everyone justice, I can
finally get it now.
Yeah. And that feels, I love, it's one of my, it should be on the movie cliches. We have to do another one of those episodes at some point. But the cliche of, I have a code, but I'll break it. Or not just that, but like I say something, but then when it comes time to put your beliefs under the microscope or you're faced with like a real evil, you'll bend that rule.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that too, where you get that moment where it's just like, no, not now. For England, James, no.
For me. Yeah.
This is vengeance.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get them killed. They're able to escape. And he just drops Miggs off to be like, go find your own way. We'll see this character again.
I know we'll see him again. I would have liked it if they were just like, I'd like it if they put a little more bit of a button on it. Because I like that they're like, yeah, it's a shame about Miggs. Like, yeah, he died back there. Like, what? You're gonna kill me? What is going on here? No, get out of here.
Yeah, you clean slate.
But I would have been like, if I ever need, I would have been like, I liked if he would have just been like, just like the Avengers cameo or whatever. Just like, if you ever need anything, or if we ever need to find you, like, we'll use this. And gives him like a little transpondery thing. Mm-hmm. That would have been cool. I think there's only one episode left now.
This is the episode. This is spoilers. The rescue. Now, before I start, compared to the season finale of last season, how would you compare this?
It's not as good.
It's not as good.
Even the fight with Giancarlo Esposito and it's not Giancarlo Esposito's fault because his face is out, so you can't really use a stunt double that much. But he does the best he can. But again, like the Jedi fight with Ahsoka or whatever, it feels a little flaccid. It feels a little lack of style, lack of a creative imprint on it kind of hurts it.
This is kind of like we have to get we're balancing a lot of characters.
I like the part where Boba Fett and the chick beat each other up. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, but like everybody's here. Everybody's working out a plan.
Boba Fett got the nail polish out and give himself a nice clear coat on the armor.
Has all that gunk on it. And so he goes back to Bo-Katan.
His armor is cleaner than it was 30 years
30
ago.
years ago, yeah, because technology has changed a little bit. Like
Cleaning technology.
Yeah, he was able to get
We have new buffers now.
Yeah, he was able to get a ShamWow and be able to get that going. So it's him and Cara Dune. They find Dr. Pershing, and they're essentially doing kind of like Return of the Jedi. They're gonna take a Imperial shuttle and trick their way into boarding onto the ship.
Oh yeah, because they make Boba Fett chase him down or whatever. It's weird Boba Fett doesn't get to like contribute to that fight that much.
Yeah,
he's just in his spaceship.
He's kind of in and out, and then he's like later.
But Ming-Na stays around.
She does. She leaves later.
Yeah.
But she sticks around, and he's like, "I'll be back."
Yeah.
And he disappears from the episode, and that's fine. I mean, a lot of people thought, are they just going to kill Boba Fett here and everything? And it's like, no, as we know, they got plans for him. So they, also, we forgot that Giancarlo Esposito fucks around with Grogu a bit, and he's kind of having a good time being a bad guy to this puppet.
Oh yeah, he like puts his dark saber
up to him, and he's just kind of like, "Oh, you can't do nothing to me." He's having a good time being a villain. I
wish we would have gotten a little more backstory to like how he got that thing. We kind of get like he hints at some things, but nothing overt.
I feel like that's going to be something that's going to reveal itself by the end of Rebels.
Because by the end of like Clone Wars or something, I think the dark saber, if it's for a while, it's in the hands of Darth Maul, and then it's in the hands of who knows who. I can't remember after that.
There's a great. Keep with your thought right there. There's a line that in an interview. Giancarlo Esposito was talking about. Oh yeah, so Giancarlo Esposito was interviewed, and his daughters are big fans of it because he's an older man. He's in his 60s or so, and he's got family and everything. He's been around for a long time. And he's rules. I've been rewatching Breaking Bad, and he's Gus Fring, and he's
great.
One of the great villains.
He has half a face by the end of that show.
Yeah, he kind of gets it. He was interviewed and saying, like, one of his daughters said, since he's playing Moff Gideon, but Papa, please don't hurt that baby. Don't hurt that baby. And he says back, I will squish that little big-eared bastard.
To his daughter?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's like, I want to squish that little big-eared bastard. So he's in character.
Yeah.
But he's like, he gets blood from him. Because he's like, I want this midichlorian blood. This is some good midichlorian blood. I need this.
We don't really know what that's for yet.
Yeah.
I imagine something to do with, like, I don't know, creating more Sith or something, or dark. If it's just for, like, we need to create better Stormtrooper, I'm like, that's boring.
Yeah.
I want mysticism.
I want this to connect with where the First Order is going to come from.
Yeah, to something. Yeah.
Like, if we know that...
Because in a few years, like Kylo Ren and Rey have to be born.
Yeah,
we got something has to happen.
Yeah, we're not too far off. We know that, Boss. Oh God, what's his name now? Master Snoke. Yeah. We know that Snoke is a clone and had other clones. Is this the beginning of the Snokes? And everybody is working under the Emperor's, like, posthumous operation? Is this part of Operation
Feels like a
Cinder?
lot of effort to put in just to make a clone, like a whole show dedicated to this is where he comes from. Like,
well, also there's no Jedi left, and they don't know if Luke Skywalker's still alive or anything like that. Yeah. But except now,
yeah,
they fight off. They fight the Dark Troopers are not fucking around.
Yeah, they have a whole thing where
legitimately intimidating.
Yeah, a whole platoon of them are about to get released,
and one of them alone gives Mando a hard time, like just toss him around, just making mincemeat out of him.
Yeah. How does he beat him?
He opens
the airlock.
He opens the airlocks and shoots them all out
science
in his
fiction.
face.
Every science fiction.
But that's the only way you could beat them. And after a while, they're like, "Hey guys, we're robots," and they head back. So they got to clear everything up before everything happens. There's a big standoff at the bridge. Giancarlo Esposito is just cocky as all get out. He's like, doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to kill me. And that's when he's like, the Darksaber. He gets the Darksaber. Din.
Him and Din Djarin fight.
Mm-hmm. And he gets the Darksaber from him, or he gives it to him, and it's just like, he's just like, fine, I'll just give it to Bo-Katan. He's like, it's not about the sword.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah. It has to be. You don't get it, you win it, or whatever.
He's like that's not the sword's power. The power is the message. The power is the story.
Yeah.
And he's just shit-eating grin, like y'all have to kill each other.
I like that. It feels weird that Bo-Katan would agree to that because she's also like
she's not a hardliner.
Come on, we're progressives. We don't have to wear helmets forever and stuff. But also, I'm beholden to this stupid sword and the.
But that's where she shows her hypocrisy when it's like power. I could become all powerful.
Well, here's how I viewed that scene. She's like, I don't believe in this. Other people will believe.
Yeah.
They will say, I did not earn this, and they will not follow me into battle. Mm-hmm. That's what I kind of took away from it.
Right.
It could just be she's kind of a liar.
Right.
Or
it
she's
could be
self-opportunistic to where she'll serve her own ends.
She'll bend the code of her people enough that it gets her to be queen or gets her to be ruler.
Yeah.
Because she's this close. She's just this close to getting it, but now it's in Din's hands. And he can't just hand it over to her. Be like, I abdicate.
He tries. He
tries.
He was like, "Here, take it. I don't care. I don't want it."
And Giancarlo Esposito.
Why would he?
Like,
he has a whole thing of Beskar, like a whole.
And Giancarlo Esposito, Moff Gideon, just sitting around like, in 5 seconds, you will all be dead, and I will be alive, and I know that because they're coming. And then Cara Dune looks out the window, just like, "Oh, great! They brought a single X-wing."
Yeah, because they said.
At what time did you realize who this was?
Almost immediately.
Did you kind of guess it was immediately that?
I was like, well, you feel like Luke Skywalker would show. Oh, there he is. I was like, yeah, like the big thing is happening here. Like, and like he's the only Jedi around. I mean, I'm sure there's like 2 or 3 more somewhere around.
But they're not getting the Ahsoka Tano treatment where they're getting to be fleshed out.
Yeah.
Like she is from the animated.
Because in a way you kind of can't. Like Ahsoka's around. I think Ezra from Rebels would still be around at some point.
Because I know him and
Kanan,
but I know Ezra and Thrawn have a character thing together related. I don't know what it is 'cause I haven't watched Rebels, but their characters are entwined in some way. And it's like, oh, if one is alive, then the other has to be alive. But I don't know exactly what the full scope of that is.
Yeah, but so what happens is it's Luke Skywalker.
It is Luke Skywalker. He tears through these dark troopers like butter.
And some of it's
cool.
Some of it's kind of cool. Some of it I'm like, I wish it would have that creative stamp. Because some of it's just like a generic, either too close or too wide shot of a man chopping through something that's not really there. It needs... chopping through droids is also, it's not fair because it's inherently less interesting than fighting another combatant,
right?
Who has
but
another
also
weapon.
You can't have Luke just killing people.
Yeah,
it gives a bad look. So he can kill droids. This is fine.
I feel like this is what I kind of am getting. I'll get to this when we start talking
now.
About
There's one thing I really love, and it's a subtle thing, but I know it's an acting choice that Giancarlo Esposito makes. Is everyone else is just like one X-wing, and then he's kind of sitting there like X-wing, and he looks up to the camera, kind of. He's like, "Oh no, it can't be." And he's freaking out. He's terrified. It's the only time where this guy, who has been such a smug asshole the whole series, is scared.
Yeah, because
he knows it's Luke Skywalker.
Because the guy that defeated the Emperor.
Yeah, and that's why he's like,
well,
he's sweating. He's just like, oh shit,
no.
Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. And I'm like, that's so rewarding to watch this guy who's always 2 steps ahead stumble on his feet.
Yeah, and look, I'm not a monster. I didn't hate the scene, but we get to the point that I think, like, when we get to the point where he meets, Din Djarin and company, takes his hood off, it's him. Mm-hmm. It's kind of CG. It's a little CGI wonky.
Yeah, this is interesting. Mark Hamill is credited, and I think he said he was on set.
To do what?
I don't know. It's not him. That's not him.
It's a stunt guy.
It's a stunt guy, and they CGI the
dots.
face over. But it's credited as Mark Hamill, and the only way they do that credit is because he was on Twitter even saying like, "Did y'all like that episode?" So he's fine with it. He's 100% down with it.
I assumed he would be fine with this stuff. If you're gonna do young Luke Skywalker, he obviously can't.
And also,
do it.
he's still in the story, like after Last Jedi and the other one, Rise of Skywalker. He's like, well, I'm still in this series. Like, I can pop up anytime I want.
Yeah. I feel like my problem with the scene is not that it doesn't make sense, and I don't get me started.
It almost makes perfect sense.
And don't get me started on things that need to make sense or whatever.
Right.
Star Wars, you can do whatever you want, but like, I felt the action wasn't nearly. I feel like people are just like, oh, it's that time that my mom and dad were still together. Luke Skywalker's still around. It's like my nostalgic childhood.
Right.
I don't have that much patience for nostalgia as a motivator for something. Mm-hmm. I saw the scene and I was like, the action's okay. It's cool that he's there. I wish it was something more than like, are you a Jedi? I am.
Yeah.
Like it's just
I am.
it's just kind of flat.
Yeah.
And I was expecting charismatic, like I almost wanted like
Luke Skywalker, I'm here to rescue you.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
wanted some, dare I say, like some more dialogue.
Yeah,
like
I did
wanted,
too.
I almost
mean,
wanted him to look at like Giancarlo Esposito and have him be like Giancarlo Esposito be like the Empire will destroy you, or be like, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than anything you could ever imagine. So it's just something.
Yeah.
But he just kind
It's
of
okay
says,
to play the hits when you're doing something this heavy.
because you got the character back for this.
Yeah.
Let him speak.
Yeah.
Instead, it's just, I am a Jedi, and he'd be like, come with me, little one. And then he's like, I'll protect the child, I promise, or something.
Yeah,
It's like three lines of disposable dialogue.
It is very robotic. He's just kind of like.
And like, I don't know how they did the
I
voice.
would even be like, you should probably not trust this guy because he seems kind of shady.
I mean, I think at this point, like, Grogu knows who it is.
Yeah, because Grogu is on the screen. He's looking at the camera. He's putting his fingers up into it. And he's like,
Nice
I know.
touch.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to feel like maybe he comes there and Luke doesn't know what to do, and he feels Grogu, and he kind of like his head goes up, and he knows what to do.
Yeah, he's looking around at everybody like, what an odd assortment of people.
It's
and then
not that the idea is unsound. It's the execution is a little clunky, and just these little, you're an idea man, just these little ideas you're throwing around right now
Yeah.
would just add a little extra seasoning.
Well, or even just like a little bit of a shock to see something that looks like Yoda. To be like, oh. And like he leans down and it's just like he smiles and it's just like
he just shows up,
He doesn't
hits
have to say anything.
he
He
hits
just has
the
like a
win,
little moment,
the
just
win
like-
button,
Yeah.
cutting through everybody. Then he shows up, gives us no information. But who does sell that scene is Din Djarin, who looks like he's saying goodbye to someone he hopes he'll see again, but he never know. But he does say,
I didn't get emotional during it. I know some people got really emotional during it.
No, I didn't, like, cry.
It didn't get me the same way because I was like, this doesn't feel like the end to these characters.
no, but I felt like, oh no, he's got to say goodbye to his sweet boy, and he says
his quest is over. You know.
and there's a weird bittersweetness to it, but also he tells him like, I'll see you again.
Yeah.
But we don't know if he'll still be a baby or what's
We don't know
gonna
what happens years from now when Kylo Ren overtakes the. That's the other thing. It's like, did he survive when it's like, we're so far away from that.
Yeah, and we're writing
We're
ourselves
15
into
years away from that.
and it feels like you're writing yourself into a corner, kind of, with all these. Like, it's kind of like that fan. We'll get to this. This is my criticism. I'm trying to save it for the end because
Right.
I keep almost bringing
Now,
it up.
I did like that Giancarlo Esposito was just about to take himself out. He was like, fuck this. He was about to,
He goes, "No!"
and they just like, nope, not today.
Yeah.
So we'll get more of them taking this guy to space
To Nuremberg.
Guantanamo.
to the Nuremberg trials. Yeah. It'll be
Get
the
him
end.
laser hanged.
It'll be the end of like From Hell when they're trying Ian Holm. It's like, I do not recognize this court authority to judge me or whatever. Like
What a fool.
something like that. But no, I liked it more than I did it. I just wish that there was some charisma, some more dialogue.
Yeah.
And just like, if you're gonna do fan service, like, go for
Lean
it.
in it. Lean
into it.
I mean, technically,
Star Wars is not about subtlety anymore.
I mean, we kind of get it because a lot of Last Jedi haters popped up and is like, "This is the Luke I wanted." They know that. That's it. And it's like, no, there's no conspiracy to undo those movies. This is just Luke in his prime. Like, this is Luke, calm
That Luke Skywalker can't defeat like he said. I can't walk out. He can just chop up droids. It's easy.
Yeah.
He can't pull a Star Destroyer out of the sky,
Right.
which is what I think they want him to do,
Right.
which is dumb,
Right.
And is overpowered. And even like Yoda can't do that.
No.
he can lift an
He
X-wing.
can look at X-wing, but it's an unmanned X-wing.
Yeah.
Because
if you can move something that far away, can you move another planet that halfway across the universe?
I mean, Palpatine at the end of Rise of Skywalker is like, I now have ultimate power of all the Sith, and now he's able to disrupt an entire army.
Yeah.
Because he's pure power at that point. He's beyond the structures of man. I'll give that movie that.
Yeah.
But
I feel like I don't have any problem. Hey, look, and I also don't have a problem with like Luke Skywalker like killing people as opposed to droids or whatever. I just feel like no matter what the situation would have been, it doesn't land with a thud, but
No,
it
I
doesn't
don't-
soar
it doesn't
either.
soar.
It's
It
like in this
kinda just
meandering
happens.
middle ground. And
I imagine it must have been difficult in that writing room to be like, we're bringing in Luke. all right, what are we going to do? And they're going to sit around. I'm sure they had to debate up and down. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
I believe they debated it. I don't believe it's hard, though. I believe Jon Favreau is a good enough creative to be like, I know what we could do here. Like, he's a director, writer, lots of stuff.
And Dave Filoni on that,
then again,
too.
now that I think about it, the first Iron Man movie is mostly improv. And the thing that I think about Favreau is it's never his dialogue. So, like, maybe it isn't something his
Maybe it's
his
Dave
forte.
Filoni.
Yeah.
Maybe Filoni's a guy. But, like, if you had a person there.
Maybe it's Peyton Reed, who like maybe he didn't give as good directions, but also maybe it's like, you're casting a stunt guy. Maybe we'll see more of Luke later.
Yeah. It depends on how
I know
they did
everyone's
that
like,
voice.
we should have gotten Sebastian Stan or whatever.
That would have been. I'm a stan of that. I think that would have been really cool, considering he's already in Marvel and Disney's not pocket, but he's in their.
He's in the Rolodex.
He's in the Rolodex, exactly. And be like, hey, you look a lot like him. Everyone agrees. I think if they did that, though, that's handing a huge check to him and being like, you're now Luke Skywalker. And it's
Whenever we need him.
that's a lot to do. I don't. Maybe he brought. Who knows? Maybe they went to him and he's like, no.
They could do the loopers technology and like just augment the face to make him like uber identical or whatever. I think it would be great. Look, I mean, Avengers Endgame had young Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
Like that looks pretty good.
It looks pretty good.
So I mean, it's possible.
And I mean, if you were going to do a scene where a person was there and Luke didn't want to kill him, joking with our co-host a second ago, Luke, with like the Matrix, it could be literally the scene where Neo looks up at the other two agents and they look at each other and run. Like someone walks in as Luke and he's just like, go. They're like, and they run away.
Or you can walk in and people are like, drop your weapons, and you're like, you're gonna go home and live a happy life.
Yeah.
They just drop and they just walk out. That'd be great if John Carlo ever like, I thought of this, toot, toot, toot. Like, and like a bunch of stormtroopers and stuff like come out,
And
whatever.
he's just like,
and then he makes
the
all
Empire is over.
and makes all the humans leave, but the droids stay, and then he's like, all right, you're like, ah! And then you do the da 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 da, do like the big Duel of the Fates music, and he just hacks his way. See, like, it's not the idea, it's the execution.
it's the
I mean, the
execution.
music doesn't swell up, and up until this point, our action has just been people running in hallways.
And as we had talked earlier with Luke, this is the moment where we get the actual the Jedi theme kind of plays.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, that's we've been waiting for this.
Yeah.
All right.
I still feel like you can use it in other moments and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anybody's feelings.
And-
it
and-
doesn't even
and-
have to be like that music. It can be the Han Leia kind of da na 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 na. You can use that for like different stuff with Grogu or whatever. But I guess my question is now, like, I'm kind of left with this feeling of
Well,
like,
also
I
the
like.
episode ends so quickly after that. There's no denouement. There's no like epilogue about like there's no like moment where we cut to where all the characters are by the credits. It just ends with them on the ship,
Yeah. And
left holding the bag a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's over. Is it over? It's over. I mean, Luke showed up. Grogu's gone. We defeated Moff Gideon. It's over.
Also, baby Grogu is the size of like a regular baby. So when he grows up, is he going to be the size of a regular man?
Or a regular Yoda.
Because Yoda's pretty tiny.
Yeah, but Yoda was also what, 500 years old? 600? 900?
800 years I've trained Jedi. So he's probably older than that.
Yeah, and he's only 50.
Yeah,
because we
so-
get that confirmed.
Which
that
means
he's
we'll
only
never
50.
see them. It's impossible for
Yeah,
us
it's
to
too
have.
far into the
people
future.
have treated that picture of like old Mondo dying in his bed, and then like
No,
teenage Grogu.
no, he's gonna
it
look
won't
exactly
happen.
the same.
He'll look almost identical.
Yeah,
he might be able to walk a little better.
Yeah.
By the time you meet
Yeah,
him.
his legs might be a little more movable. He might be able to speak a little bit, but no, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
he will be a very dead old man.
Maybe not hundreds, but 200 years.
200
something like
years.
that. Yeah, but till he's a teenager or whatever. But you know what?
Fuck you, Dad.
I feel like while I liked the episode, even with those kind of faults I had in it,
It wasn't
I
the
still like it.
strongest episode at all, but
No.
the
But I am left
highlights
with-
of it was stuff like their plan to get in and Giancarlo Esposito.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always delightful to run into.
But it did leave me feeling with a feeling of like, now what?
yeah, I think I agree with you. It
But
kind of
the
really
now
left
what
with a
could
thud.
be really interesting, but I'm also kind of like, you've introduced Luke Skywalker. You can't take that back.
No.
Because when a big thing happens, just like in all these events, like in Iron Man 3, I'm like, where's Captain America at? Why isn't he helping with this? Like, I'm going to be like, where's Luke Skywalker? Why doesn't he care that this is happening?
Because now, you can't just put Grogu on a ship and send him off to
Dagobah or
Luke's training camp for life. It's like we got to go there. I want to go there. I want to see what's going on there. You know, I want to see young Ben. Like
That'd be great. Everyone will complain about it, but I love it.
You've introduced this world. It's now time to see it. Now it's how you're going to do it. And I think that's kind of what we're going to see happen not this time around because we get our post-credit sequence, which is what you just watched for the first time.
Which is the Boba Fett one.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool.
So
it's pretty cut and dry.
What you didn't see was like we cut to Jabba's palace. It is old Bib Fortuna, the former
I don't know, the major domo of
Major
Boba,
Domo, yes,
of
which is a
Boba.
word I did not know until recently. He's literally his Major Domo.
He's his right hand man.
He's right as man. His secondary, like his dude, his butler, and who apparently had been eyeing the throne for some time. So we are now about 7 years or so after the death of Jabba on the sail barge.
He got real fat, real quick.
Bib survived it and has just been living large as the head of the.
Maybe that's how Jabba got that fat.
Yeah, well. Maybe he just took a hint from Jabba's, like maybe it's like old
Eating those slugs out.
yeah, maybe it's like back in medieval times, like the more you ate and the bigger you were, that was a sign of wealth. And power. Like a lot of
Now it's the opposite.
well, it's more they're spiritually fat on the land.
Yeah.
You know, now Jeff Bezos is swole and on like a super diet, and he's still a major. He's not a major domo, but but now Bib Fortuna is big man in charge. And he's just looking just like.
And he's like, Boba Fett, I've heard about you coming back.
First, we see some pow, 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 and some guys falling dead and everything. And Boba and Fennec come in, start gunning everybody else down, and then the slave ladies there, they all leave, and he's essentially like, "Get out of here, ladies." He doesn't say that, but they essentially run, and he's like, Boba Fett, my dude, how we doing? I thought you had been eaten by a sarlacc. I mean, I was there, but hey, we're
You looked
cool.
like you got eaten by it.
I've
You didn't
heard
really
so
address
many-
how you got out, but we'll
I've
worry
heard
about that
rumors,
later.
man. Hey, we're all good, and he just guns him right there. Has no time for him.
Yeah.
And that felt like that was the last connection to
Old
Fett.
Boba Fett, kind of. Yeah.
The end of the Fett mafia on Tatooine. He just
think-
throws that body
Well, I don't know
off.
if the Fetts are like a family crime syndicate. It's just more like he's just the man with no name or whatever. Like the Hutts were a family of crime people.
Yeah,
but
the
they're-
Huttese mafia.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're gone.
They're long gone
Boba
now,
Fett
I
was just
imagine.
their like enforcer. Whenever you need a man to just
I
make
mean,
him
the
sleep with the
Hutts,
fishes.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
he said the
Hutts.
Fett dynasty. I was like, well, it's just one Fett.
No, I meant the Hutts, the Hutt dynasty. The Hutt mafia, I'm assuming, ends after Boba Fett. After
Jabba.
Jabba the no
Jabba the Hutt.
Jabba the Hutt. And now he kills Bib Fortuna, and he sits on that throne. She takes a drink out of some space liquor, and they look cool as hell. And it says Book 3, the Book of Boba Fett. So
It's a good pitch.
Yeah.
It's a pitch, is what it is.
so we
If no one responded to it, they'd be like, we're not going to do anything with it.
Right.
But everyone kind of
everyone's kind of in on it. Tamara Morrison and Ming-Na Wen are clearly in on it because they're going to be the leads of this. This means that most likely we're going to take a break from Mando at least for a couple of years from Din Djarin. He may show up as a cameo or something, but the next season of whatever this now anthology of the Mandalorians is going to be the beginning of Boba Fett's rise to power as a criminal overlord.
Can you be a
That's kind of what I was looking
I'm right
forward
there with
to.
you. I'm right there with you.
Because now the Boba Fett we saw in this season, good enough dude, but he was on a mission. We don't know what that mission is, but he's like, I just want my armor back. I want the name Boba Fett back. I want what Boba Fett stood for back.
that armor belongs to my family.
Yeah.
Like, and that's his deal.
And you kind of get an idea now that I have been answering to people my whole life, and I deserve to take power because now I've outlived them all. I've outlived the Empire. I've outlived Fett. I've outlived the Hutts. I've outlived Bib Fortuna.
Yeah.
And
Which
I've
doesn't feel like that impressive.
No.
Bib Fortuna strikes me as a guy who's been making it by the skin
Bib
of his
Fortuna is a
teeth.
punk.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he hadn't been assassinated earlier.
He's like Littlefinger.
Yeah. But now he sits on the throne, and we get an idea that he's gonna go around and start cleaning the slate, tying up loose ends.
But if he's going to be a criminal overlord, can he still be handling all of his business by himself? Because isn't that the mark of like a crime boss? Is like
You don't get your hands dirty.
you don't get your own hands dirty. You make someone else, and that's what we like from Boba Fett is he gets his hands dirty.
We might then get some. The ideal thing you want is you go back to that original roster of bounty hunters on the deck of the Star Destroyer, So like Bosk, Dengar,
Is it to kill Bosk? You think so?
Forlom, and you bring these guys back and have them involved in it. Now, one of the things we do know because of a book is that Dengar is in Rise of Skywalker. He's heavily disfigured. He's almost like a completely different person, but that's supposed to be Dengar. So Dengar is a human, other than he's got like weird bandages around his head. But he has had some genetic modification at some point before Rise of Skywalker. Okay. Dengar is voiced by Simon Pegg in the video games, and I think that's a fine choice for an actor for him. I think you bring in some of this bounty hunter fun lore now that you can do that, and you have a much more rough and tumble, less mystical, less samurai journey, and you just have something like Grand Theft Auto space, and it's just like
I'm fine with having meetings in big dark
The
warehouses.
Sopranos in space, just literally like I gotta clear the deck,
but more
Who's
action.
next?
Yeah.
Just make it a little gruffer. Just make it a little. Just the slave one flying around. Woke up this morning, just going down the Jersey Turnpike. Like,
I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Let's briefly talk about. There's something I've been trying to talk about, but I've been wanting to save it for the end.
yeah,
which is
we're done with talking about it. This is our post talk.
I think all in all, Mando season 2 is real good. You should
Yeah.
watch it. Anyway.
Well, until the next time.
Yeah, very good. This has been the Movie Date with Rob and Matt, a podcast for people who love movies but don't want to be too smug about it. I've been Rob.
And I've been Matt.
And you guys can check us out on YouTube and Facebook and iTunes and Podbean. And those are all the places that I know. I think maybe SoundCloud or something like that. I don't know.
Keep an ear, keep an eye out.
Yes.
Stay
and
safe, be well.
We will be back to you guys with another episode next time.
Next time.